Chapter 998. Published at 24th of May 2022 11:09 and 38 seconds AM. Chapter 998. 998 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 998. Who was your first? Mei Feng left Mixia's room shortly after putting back her secret. How long have the two of you been going out? She asked him as they continued the tour around the mansion. Not that long. It started shortly after we moved to this place, he said. Who made the first move? Meishio, is that so? It appears that she's changed more than I anticipated. And she continued, what about you, young master? What do you think of my daughter? I love her very much. Yuan said without any hesitation. Mei Feng smiled. Do you remember when I asked you the same question last time? I do, and I was naive back then. However, I have changed. I can see that. Sometime later, after seeing the whole mansion, Mei Feng picked her own room. I want to live in this room, Mei Feng said as she stood at the door on the opposite side of Mixia's room in the hallway. If that's where you want to stay, I have nothing to say. Yuan nodded. Mei Feng moved all of her luggage into the room shortly after. When Meishio learned that her mother will be living in the room across from her, she felt a little nervous and worried because that could affect her nighttime activities with Yuan. Everyone in the building gathered at the dining room later. Starting today as the head maid of this place, I will be taking care of breakfast and dinner and cleaning the mansion. Although I am the young master's personal maid, if you ever need any help, don't hesitate to ask. As for your laundry, I will be doing 2 to 3 people a day throughout the week. If you wish to do your own laundry, just let me know. Thank you, Madame Mei Feng, the others said to her. The members of the Demon Ceiling faction proceeded to introduce themselves to her one by one. Sometime later, everybody went back to their own rooms to rest as it was getting late. Yuan and Mei Feng stayed up a little longer to chat. What happened to the Yu family afterward? Do you know? She asked him. They ran away and they still owe me my money. Yuan smiled. Who could have imagined that something like this would happen? She sighed. This is karma. They deserved it. By the way, there is still something that I need to tell you, Miss Mei Feng. It's about in our world. Yuan proceeded to tell her about the truth within their world. Seriously? This sounds like something straight out of fiction. Mei Feng was in disbelief. I know, but trust me, it's true. Have you ever played? He then asked. No, I never had the time. Your cultivation is also very low. What cultivation technique are you using? Something the Yu family gave me. Yuan pondered for a moment and said, I'm going to get you a new cultivation technique that is far more powerful. Fortunately, you didn't progress that far in your cultivation, or it will be very difficult for you to suddenly change cultivation techniques. Also, I want you to focus more on your cultivation starting now. It's going to be very important in the future. I will do as you say, young master. Mei Feng nodded. Once Mei Feng retired to her room, Yuan also did the same. Does Mixia's mother know about our relationship? Chu Liuxiang asked him in bed. Not ours, but she knows about Meishio and mine. I'll tell her when the time is right. All right, let's go to sleep. The following morning, Yuan was woken up by the sound of someone knocking on his door. Young master, I'm going to start clearing your room now. You can continue to sleep if you want. Mei Feng's voice resounded. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. Wait, Yuan tried to stop her. However, Mei Feng had already opened the door and entered the room with her cleaning supplies. Why, young master? What is the meaning of this? Mei Feng was shocked to see Chu Liuxiang sleeping beside him on the same bed. Yuan rubbed his eyes and sighed. Sorry, Miss Mei Feng. I should have told you this earlier. This is Chu Liuxiang. She's also my partner. Mei Feng stared at him with wide eyes as she tried to comprehend the situation. You have 2 partners? She eventually understood the situation and asked for confirmation. Yes. I've known Chu Liuxiang before I even came to the Yu family. She was at the same orphanage as me. I see, Mei Feng mumbled. You're not mad. Yuan raised an eyebrow. Why would I be mad? Because you're dating 2 women at once? Because you thought I would think that you're betraying Meishio? Something like that, I think. Mei Feng shook her head. You're mature enough to know this, so I will tell you. Meishio was raised to be nothing more than a servant for you. So the fact you accepted her as your partner is already more than I can ask for, and it's not weird for influential people such as yourself to have more than one wife. Of course, Yuan already knew this because Meishio had told him before. Anyways, I'm going to start cleaning your room now. I won't make much noise so you can go back to sleep if you want. Mei Feng said to him as she started cleaning his room. I don't think I can go back to sleep anymore, so I will just wake up, he said with a smile. While Yuan changed out of his pajamas, Meifeng suddenly asked, By the way, young master, I have a question. What is it? Who was your first? Meishio or Chu Liuxiang? Meishio, he said in a low voice. I see. Meifeng didn't say anything else and continued to clean his room, but there was a small smile on her face now. As for Chu Liuxiang, she was still sound asleep. After cleaning his room, Meifeng proceeded to clean the bathroom. Meanwhile, Yuan went to do some light training. Li Jinxi showed up shortly after to train with him. Eventually, everyone was in the training field. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 999. Published at 24th of May 2022 11:09 and 37 seconds AM. Chapter 999. 999 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 999. New member after training. Everyone gathered in the dining room, where breakfast was already prepared by Meifeng. Wow. Did you really cook all of this by yourself? Wang Ming asked with a dazed look on his face as he stared at the table that was filled with many different dishes for breakfast. This seems like something that requires a full team of chefs to achieve, Wu Zhao mumbled. You're more amazing than I thought, Madame Meifeng. Wang Bingbing praised. If I cannot do this much, then I am not fit to be with the young master. Meifeng spoke calmly. They started eating the food shortly after. God, this is so freaking good. This is even better than what that old man at the silver restaurant back home makes. Shimurong exclaimed as he stuffed the food inside his mouth. The demon ceiling faction emptied all of the dishes on the table in less than half an hour. After breakfast, Meifeng took all of the empty plates and went to clean them. Meishio, is Xiaoying almost here yet? Yuan asked her. Yes, she texted me an hour ago that she was on her way here. Meixia's phone suddenly started ringing. After seeing the caller, Meishio said, Speaking of the devil. This is Meishio, she answered the phone. I understand. We're coming out now. Meishio hung up a second later and said to Yuan, She's outside right now. Great. Yuan stood up and said, Everyone, our new member is here. Let's all go greet her. Oh, to have two new residents back to back, it seems like the demon ceiling faction is finally growing. Wang Ming said. Sometime later, they went outside to greet the newest member of the demon ceiling faction, Wang Xiaoying. Hello Xiaoying. Welcome to our humble home. Yuan greeted her with a friendly smile. You call this place humble? Wang Xiaoying stared at the mansion behind him with a dumbfounded look on her face. After snapping out of her daze, she introduced herself to everyone there. Good morning, I am Wang Xiaoying. I used to work in my grandfather's hospital, but I am now here. If you need any medical attention, just let me know. I'm also an alchemist and so I can also concoct pills for you guys. The members of the demon ceiling faction introduced themselves after her introduction. Nice to meet you all. Let me show you around. You can leave your luggage inside for now. Yuan said to her afterward. Okay. Once Wang Xiaoying left with Yuan, the others started talking about their new member. Wow, she's really pretty. As expected of Yuan. Wang Ming said. She seems very energetic too. Wang Bingbing added. Do you know anything about her, Meishio? They asked her next. Yes, her grandfather took care of Yuan when he was bedridden. After we left the Yu family, she took her grandfather's place and took care of Yuan for a while. She's a good friend. What about their relationship? Is she also his partner? Hong Xiuquan asked out of curiosity. They don't have that kind of relationship. However, Wang Xiaoying admires Yuan a lot, and she even claims to be his #1 fan. Meishio shook her head. Well, now that she's living with him, it probably won't be long before things happen. Sherlang shrugged. Meanwhile, wow, this place is so much nicer inside. Not even 5-star hotels can compare to this. Wang Xiaoying mumbled as they walked around. Yes, it's a nice place. We're lucky to live here. Yuan smiled. After walking for some time, Wang Xiaoying suddenly said, By the way, I saw your interview. What did you think of it? He asked. I don't know how to say it. I felt angry at the Yu family for what they've done to you, but I am also relieved that you finally exposed them. How are they doing right now? I don't know, they ran away and hid somewhere. He shrugged. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. I'm not surprised. They suddenly became the most hated family in the entire world after all. Also, did you regain your vision? Your eyes regain their color and it feels like you can see me with your eyes, not your divine sense. Yes, I regain my vision. Wang Xiaoying sighed after hearing his words and then she said, "Oh, don't misunderstand. I am happy for you, but I have always dreamed about curing your illness." Thank you, Xiaoying. Your thoughts are enough. However, I don't think you can call it an illness. I think it's more of a curse than anything. Curse. Wang Xiaoying raised her eyebrows. I know it sounds crazy, but I have something to tell you later. It's very important. Sure. Once their tour was finished and Wang Xiaoying picked her room that was on the same floor as Yuan's room, they sat down to drink some tea made by Meifeng. Miss Meifeng? What are you doing here? Wang Xiaoying was surprised to see her there. I am now working for the young master, she gave a quick and brief explanation. I see. As they enjoyed the tea, Yuan explained the situation with cultivation online to her. What? Our soul? Wang Xiaoying was shocked after learning the truth. Yes, so you shouldn't go too crazy in cultivation online, and try your best to not get hurt. Any damage done to your soul is incredibly severe. I understand. I will be less reckless with alchemy now that I know there are real risks to getting hurt. She swallowed nervously. Sometime later, Wang Xiaoying went to her own room to organize her luggage. Meanwhile, Meishio approached Meifeng. Mother, I need to speak with you privately whenever you're available. Meet me in my room in an hour, Meifeng said. Okay. An hour later, Meishio knocked on the door to Meifeng's room. Come inside. After entering the room and closing the door behind her, Meishio looked at her mother with a calm but serious expression. There's something I need to tell you, and it's about my relationship with Yuan. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1000. Published at 24th of May 2022 11:09 and 36 seconds AM. Chapter 1000. 1000. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1000. Mother and daughter, I'm listening. Meifeng said as she stood in front of Meishio. Meishio took a deep breath before speaking. The truth is, I am currently in a romantic relationship with Yuan. Meishio stared at her mother's face to see her reaction. However, to her surprise, Meifeng's facial expression remained unchanged, seemingly unfazed. I see. Congratulations. Meifeng said to her in a calm voice a moment later. Why, you're not surprised? Meishio swallowed nervously. Why would I be? I knew that it was going to happen eventually. Is that so? Meishio was a little disappointed by her mother's lack of reaction. She thought she would be able to surprise Meifeng, but alas, that did not happen. That's all I have to say. Meishio turned around and began walking towards the door. However, Meifeng stopped her. Where do you think you're going? You may have nothing left to say, but I haven't said anything yet. Meishio halted her movements and walked back to her original spot. Let's sit down first. The two of them went onto the balcony and sat down before each other. Once they were seated, Meifeng spoke. I want to hear about your relationship with the young master. Start from the beginning. The beginning? Meishio raised her eyebrows in a questioning manner, as it was too vague. Start from the day you left the Yu family with him. Meifeng clarified. Okay. She nodded. Meishio proceeded to recall her experience with Yuan from the day they left the Yu family all the way until the present day. After telling Meifeng everything, Meishio did not stop and continued, There's something else you should know about. Yuan has another partner, Chu Liuxiang, right? Meifeng said. Huh. You knew about it? Oh. I learned about it this morning. In fact, I already knew about your relationship with Yuan since yesterday when I found the birth control pills hidden under your bed. What kind of sloppy hiding spot is that? Meifeng revealed the truth to her. You searched my room? Meishio was speechless. No, I inspected it. I wanted to make sure that you weren't slacking. Unbelievable. Meishio became silent. A moment later, Meifeng spoke. Let's get to the main topic. Main topic? Yes. I want to know your plans. When are you going to bear his children? Bear his children? I'm still too young for that kind of thing. Meishio exclaimed. Too young? You're already an adult. A lot of ladies from influential families start their own family at your age. In fact, I got pregnant with you at that age too. Seriously? Meishio couldn't believe her ears. Meishio, listen to me. If you want to remain relevant in the family, you must bear his child. The young master will definitely accept more women into his life in the future, and when that happens he will have less time for you. I am well aware of that and I will eventually bear his child, but that time is not now. It's too soon, not to mention the situation with cultivation online. Well, it's not like I am forcing you to bear his child. I am merely giving you advice as your mother. In fact, you'll probably become pregnant by accident anyway. What? Why do you sound so confident about that? Because birth control pills are not perfect. Although the chances are slim, it's not impossible for you to become pregnant even if you take the pills, especially since you're not wearing rubber when doing it with him. Meishio swallowed nervously after hearing her mother's words. Will she really get pregnant by accident? Mei Feng then continued, I don't know much about Chu Liuxiang, but she seems like a bold girl. She'll probably get pregnant before you at this rate, if she's not already pregnant. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I'm leaving. Meishio stood up and quickly left the room. She may have matured, but she's still a child at heart. Mei Feng shook her head inwardly. Meanwhile, Yuan entered cultivation online. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. Welcome back, young master. Good morning, brother Yuan. Hey, I am finally back. Sorry to keep you all waiting, we'll start climbing the stairway to heaven soon. I have one last thing to do before then. Yuan flew around spirit heaven and started hiding treasures in random places. What are you doing, young master? Feng Yuxiang asked him in a puzzled voice. I'm hosting an event where I hide treasures for people to find, he calmly explained. Feng Yuxiang was speechless. She had tons of questions but she didn't dare to ask them. While Yuan hid treasures around the world, the internet was going wild about the event. Player Yuan is hosting a massive event. A chance to acquire heaven-grade treasures for free. Player Yuan's real identity has finally been revealed. Yu family scandal? Pretty much the entire world was talking about Yuan's interview yesterday as well as the Yu family scandal. At Eternal Lotuses, their front gate was swarmed with people trying to interview Yu Ro. Senior Bai, I would like to do an interview of my own. Yu Ro approached White Lotus with this request. Huh? What? White Lotus asked. I just think it's the right thing to do. I can't stay silent forever. I will also let the world know my side of the story, she said. After pondering for some time, White Lotus agreed to Yu Rao's request, and the interview was scheduled to start in 4 hours. News of Yu Rao's interview started spreading like wildfire after White Lotus revealed it to the reporters outside their faction. 4 hours later, Yu Rao started her interview, and she told the world about her experience with the Yu family, confirming everything that Yuan had said during his interview. Yuan watched the interview later that evening with Meishio and Mei Feng. That little girl. She's growing up so fast, Yuan said with a sweet smile on his face. She handled it well. I haven't seen her in a while, but she's definitely matured a lot. Mei Feng said in a praising voice. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1001. Published at 27th of May 2022 12:03 and 14 seconds p.m. Chapter 1001. Chapter 1001, Not ready. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1001. Not ready. The following morning during breakfast, Li Jinxi asked, Yuan, now that you're back, are we going to start ascending to the next realm? Yes, but I want to wait a few more days just in case anything happens. Once I start ascending, I will be staying in until I finish all of the trials, so I want to make sure that nothing will distract me from it. He nodded. Makes sense. I don't think you need to worry. If anything happens, we'll be able to do something about it. We're here for you after all. You can rely on us. Wang Ming suddenly said. Yuan pondered for a moment before nodding his head. You're right. I should rely on you guys more. All right, we're going to ascend tonight. Make sure you're prepared by then. Okay. The members ascending with him nodded. Young master, may I have some of your time? I have something to ask you. Mei Feng asked him after breakfast. Sure. Where do you want to talk? We can do it in my room, she said. Yuan nodded and followed Mei Feng to her room. After preparing some tea and serving it to him, Mei Feng sat down before him. I'm ready when you are, Miss Mei Feng, Yuan said to her. Thank you, young master. But to be honest, this isn't that serious and the topic might not be what you expect. Yuan raised an eyebrow as he wondered what she wanted to tell him. After taking a deep breath, Mei Feng spoke with a serious look on her face. Young master, what do you think about having a child with my daughter? Yuan was sipping his tea when Mei Feng started speaking. After hearing her question, he nearly spat out the tea in his mouth. A child with Meishio? Where did this come from? He asked her a moment later. As her mother, it's only natural for me to think about these things now that she's found herself the perfect partner. And to be completely honest with you, young master, I also want to see some grandchildren. I don't know what to tell you, Miss Meifeng. This is not something I can decide on. Furthermore, we don't have the time to take care of a baby, not to mention that things will only get busier as we get closer to unveiling the truth behind an earth. If you're worried about not having enough time, you don't need to worry because I can take care of the baby and do my work at the same time. I've already done so with both Meishio and you after all. Even if you say that. Have you spoken to Meishio about this? Yuan asked. I have. What's her answer? She said that she's not ready. If she's not ready, then there's nothing I can do. I won't force her to have a child with me if she isn't ready to have one. Yuan shook his head. I know, and I am not asking you to do so. However, if you ever feel like having a child with Meishio, you will most likely have to be the one to convince her. Knowing her, she's probably waiting for you to approach her. I see. Then to tell you the truth, I also think I am not ready to have any children. I am still young, and there are many problems in my life that I need to sort out first before I can even start thinking about bringing another life to this world. Meifeng closed her eyes and remained silent for a couple of moments before sighing. Since the young master has spoken, I won't bother you with this matter anymore. Though I would like to ask, how is your relationship with Chu Liuxiang? Judging by what I've seen from her, she seems like the type of girl to want a family as soon as possible. Yuan smiled and said, as expected of you, Miss Meifeng. Your eyes are as sharp as ever. Indeed, Lulu's dream is to have her own family. However, she hasn't asked me to do anything yet. She's also probably waiting for me to approach her, but who knows? She's sometimes very unpredictable. I understand. And I apologize for wasting your time with my little nonsense. Ever since Meishio left with you, I have been thinking about having grandchildren, even though it's never happened before. Don't worry about it, Miss Meifeng. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. Also, you should stop calling me that. You're my master now. You can just call me Meifeng. I can call you Meifeng, but you'll also have to drop the formalities and call me Yuan. That's not fair, young master, please. You're Mixius' mother. It would be weird for my future mother-in-law to address me as young master. Meifeng released a defeated sigh. I understand. If that's what you want, I shall obey. Yuan. Thank you, Meifeng. He smiled. For the rest of the day, Yuan would work on his little treasure hunt. Once he made all preparations, he made his way to the stairway to heaven and waited for the others to show up. When Meishio, Chu Liuxiang, and Li Jinxi entered cultivation online, they all approached the stairway to heaven. We're finally going to ascend. I've been waiting for this moment. Chu Liuxiang said in an excited voice as they approached the man handing out the badges. I'd like 4 badges. Yuan said to the man, who immediately raised his eyebrows. 4? Only one of you can challenge the stairway to heaven at a time, he said. I know. I am going to be the only one challenging the stairway to heaven. They're just coming along with me. Yuan smiled. Seriously? Are you aware that? Yes, I am aware that by doing so, it would make the trials much harder, and I am prepared for it. The man looked at the 3 beauties standing behind him and sighed in a low voice. Statistically speaking, men that focus too much on women will never go far in the cultivation world. However, this is your life, not mine. Once the old man handed 4 badges to Yuan, they immediately began climbing the staircase that led to the stairway to heaven. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1002. Published at 27th of May 2022 12:03 and 13 seconds p.m. Chapter 1002. Chapter 1002. Surrounded. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1002. Surrounded. Once they arrived in front of the staircase, Yuan started climbing it while being pressured by an invisible force. However, unlike the first time, he was not bothered by it at all. As for Meishio and the others, they climbed the staircase without feeling anything. Is it supposed to be this easy? Li Jinxi asked. No, it's not. Since we're not taking the trial, we won't need to do anything. However, Yuan will have to bear our share of effort, so it's going to be a lot harder on him than normal. Chu Liuxiang explained to her. What? If that's the case, why don't we just let him do it by himself? The stairway to heaven will probably open for everyone else after he clears it. There's no reason to make it harder on him for no reason. Li Jinxi said. He's probably already thought about that, but since he isn't saying anything, he probably wants the challenge. After all, it would be too easy if he went inside by himself. Chu Liuxiang shrugged. Will he be okay? Of course. He passed the last stairway to heaven while carrying 3 other people as well. Really? Who was the third one? And where is this person now? He helped a fellow disciple from the same sect to escape her family. She joined one of the 7 spiritual academies with the others. I see. Sometime later, once Yuan and the others arrived before the grand doors of the stairway to heaven, they started inserting their badge into the slots. However, right as Yuan prepared to insert his badge into the door, he suddenly stopped and started looking around. What are you looking for? Chu Liuxiang asked him, but he didn't say anything. Feng Feng Xiaohua Yingying. He suddenly called them. The 3 of them appeared before him the next second. Protect them, he said. Yes. What's going on, Yuan? Meishio asked him with a slight frown on her face. We're surrounded. Huh? By who? Chu Liuxiang looked around, but she couldn't see anyone. Suddenly, a tremendous pressure that surpassed even the staircase Yuan climbed appeared. Feng Yuxiang and Xiao Hua used their cultivation to protect Meishio and the others. Where do you think you're going, Yuan? A familiar voice suddenly resounded in the area. 8 figures appeared in the air above them a moment later, all of them emitting the aura of a spirit king. Yuan smiled when he saw the person leading this group. I was wondering when you'll come back, Lord Ji. So, where did you go after disappearing without a word? What happened to my judgment? Your judgment was a little unique, so I had to delay it. You couldn't have picked a better time? I'm finally about to ascend after many delays, and you're here to delay it again? It's almost as though this world is trying to prevent me from ascending for some reason. Ha ha. Lord Ji suddenly started laughing. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. He then spoke, Don't worry, Yuan. This will be your last delay because you will not survive another day. If you're dead, you won't need to worry about being delayed or ascending. So you're going to kill me today? What happened to not meddling with outside affairs unless it breaks the balance of the world? Don't tell me that I am going to break the balance of the world by ascending? He asked. Oh no, what you did is far worse than breaking the balance of this world. Lord Ji said. Since I am going to die today, can you enlighten me for a moment? What exactly did I do? Lord Ji pointed his sword at Yuan and spoke in a cold voice. You offended the heavens, that's what you did. I offended the heavens? How and when did I do such a thing? Yuan raised an eyebrow. That's something I wish to know as well. So you don't know how or if I even offended the heavens, yet you're here trying to kill me? Can you be any more unreasonable? I may not know how, but I definitely know that you have offended the heavens. When I called upon heaven's judgment on you, the crystal became pitch black. I didn't know what it meant at that time because I have never seen such a result before, so I went back home to check. After some research and much to my shock, I learned that when the crystal turns black after heaven's judgment, that means the heavens wants you dead at all cost. Although it has never happened in the lower half of the 9 heavens before, the crystal only turns black when someone has done something or is planning on doing something that will harm the heavens. Such a heinous crime cannot be fully rectified even with your death, so I am going to shatter your soul and erase your existence entirely. This is heaven's judgment for you, Yuan. Lord Ji declared. And he continued, Don't even try running away into the stairway to heaven. As the Lord of this realm, I have control over the stairway to heaven. You won't be able to open that door even if you put in your badge. There's nowhere to run. Is that so? Yuan mumbled. Ahaha. A familiar-sounding laughter suddenly resounded. Yuan, I am finally going to get the chance to avenge my brother and my son. With the 7 legacy families and the Ji family working together to take you down, not even the heavens can save you today. Alright. Even the heavens want you dead. Patriarch Gu, who was among the group of spirit kings, suddenly exclaimed in a spiteful voice, his aura filled with killing intent. Indeed, the 7 individuals that Lord Ji brought with him were all leaders of their own legacy family from the 7 legacy families. Right after Patriarch Gu's sentence ended, Yuan and the others could see a sea of people approaching them from all directions like a tidal wave. They were all people from the 7 legacy families and the Ji family, and they were all there to carry out heaven's judgment by killing Yuan. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1003, published at 27th of May 2022, 12:03 and 11 seconds p.m. Chapter 1003, Chapter 1003 Opening the Stairway to Heaven. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1003 Opening the Stairway to Heaven. Over 300,000 people have gathered here today just to kill you, Yuan. Don't you feel honored? Lord Ji said with a cold smirk on his face. Yes, I'm a little flattered that you would go out of your way to send an entire army just for me. However, I will have to disappoint you. Your efforts will be in vain, and I will ascend the stairway to heaven just as planned. Yuan remained calm despite his seemingly hopeless situation. Nobody here can stop me from ascending today, not even the heavens itself. Ha! You're truly one crazy bastard, Yuan. Lord Ji suddenly burst out laughing, his voice so powerful that it created ripples in the air. I know that you're a talented guy, but there are situations in this world that cannot be solved with talent alone, and this is one of them. You're currently surrounded by the 7 legacy families and my Ji family. Furthermore, your only way of escape, the stairway to heaven, is blocked. You have no chance of escaping today. The stairway to heaven is blocked? Yuan suddenly scoffed. Who decided that? The stairway to heaven isn't owned by you. If I want to open these doors, there is nothing you can do to stop me. While it is technically true that I do not own the stairway to heaven, as the lord of this realm, I have the authority to choose who can open the door and who cannot. If you don't believe me, you may go ahead and try it. Lord Ji said. I was going to do that even without needing your permission. However, let's also have some fun while we're at it. If I can successfully open the stairway to heaven, why don't you let us go? Are you thinking about forcing your way inside the stairway to heaven? Not even immortals who are near the peak of the cultivation world can force their way into the stairway to heaven, much less a spirit lord like you. Who said anything about forcing my way inside? I'm going to place my badge and open the stairway to heaven the normal way. If I can achieve that, promise me that you'll give up on trying to kill me. Lord Ji narrowed his sharp eyes at Yuan, seemingly trying to figure out his true purpose. Although he was confident that Yuan would not be able to open the stairway to heaven without his permission, he had an uneasy feeling in his guts. Why are you staying silent, Lord Ji? You don't seem very confident in your own words now. Yuan showed him a mocking smile on his face. There's no need to play your games because you'll be dead soon, Lord Ji sneered. Anyways, do you have any last words before we kill you? He nodded and asked, what about my friends? Since I am your target, it wouldn't make sense to harm them. Why not let them go? Unfortunately, those who are associated with a criminal like you also deserve the death penalty. Therefore, they are all going to die here with you. That's not very reasonable. It's a pity. I thought you would be a little different from the rest of the villains. Yuan shook his head. Did you just call me a villain? Lord Ji's face suddenly turned ice cold, almost as though he'd swallowed a live fly by accident. How dare you compare me with a villain? I am heaven's servant and heaven is just. You who dared to offend the heavens, is the villain here. Lord Ji roared with a twisted look on his face. Clearly Yuan had accidentally poked his reverse scale. Yuan sighed, forget it. And without even looking, Yuan inserted the badge into the main slot of the doors to the stairway to heaven. However, the stairway to heaven had no reactions whatsoever. The leaders of the 7 legacy families started to laugh out loud after seeing this. Look at this damn fool. It's like he's deaf or something. Lord Ji clearly told him that he would not be able to open the door. Yuan ignored them and knocked on the door. Tianer, can you hear me? If you don't mind, I'd like to enter. He said out loud. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. Ha 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 ha. Even the 300,000 people there started laughing out loud. What the hell does he think he is doing? Who the hell is Tianer? Has he gone crazy? However, in the midst of their laughter, the stairway to heaven suddenly started shaking. The 300,000 people there, as well as Lord Ji and the leaders, stopped laughing and watched with wide eyes as the massive doors for the stairway to heaven started opening. Meishio Lulu Jinsi, I want you to go inside and wait for me. Yuan suddenly said to them with a serious expression on his face. What about you? Why aren't you coming with us? Meishio asked with a worried frown. Don't worry, I will follow you guys once I speak with them some more. What if the door closes on you? Chu Liuxiang asked. It won't happen. Trust me. He smiled. Alright, well, wait for you inside. Don't take too long. Meishio nodded. They entered the stairway to heaven the next moment. What the hell is going on? Why did the stairway to heaven open for him? I specifically ordered it not to open for anyone today. Lord Ji cried inwardly as he watched Meishio and the others enter the stairway to heaven. Oh no. He's going to get away at this rate. Stop him from entering the stairway to heaven at all cost. Lord Ji suddenly shouted. The leaders of the 7 legacy families immediately rushed at Yuan, who suddenly raised his hands and said, "Calm down, I don't intend on leaving just yet." The stairway to heaven closed its doors the following moment. Lord Ji sighed in relief after seeing that Yuan had remained, but he still couldn't understand why the stairway to heaven had opened just now. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1004. Published at 27th of May 2022 9:09 and 23 seconds AM. Chapter 1004. 1004. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1004. Heaven's Regulation. What the hell did you do just now? How did you open the stairway to heaven? Lord Ji questioned Yuan after the shocking event. If you tell me why I am being hunted and I will tell you, he said. I already told you, I am only upholding heaven's judgment. I don't know what you did, but I know that you must die. That doesn't really answer my question, so my question remains unanswered. Yuan shrugged. If you don't want to tell me, that's fine. You'll regret not leaving just now because that was your only chance to survive even a little longer. Lord Ji smiled. Only a little longer? What can you do to me once I ascend to the 3rd heaven? Yuan raised an eyebrow. Haha. You're really foolish and ignorant. Do you really think that you'll be able to escape from punishment just because you escaped to another heaven? In case you forgot, my Ji family exists in the other heavens as well. As long as you remain alive, you will be hunted by the 9 heavens. Now you're telling me that I am going to be hunted by the 9 heavens? That doesn't make any sense. You're making it sound like I am an exile. So he knows about exiles? How surprising. Lord Ji appeared to be genuinely surprised that Yuan knew about exiles, mostly because they are only ever mentioned in the upper heavens. I wouldn't compare myself to exiles if I were in your shoes, Yuan. As an exile, at least I can be pardoned by completing the Supreme Heaven's legacy. However, your situation is different. There are no second chances, no opportunity for you to be pardoned. The heavens have already dictated you as a dead man. No matter where you go in the 9 heavens, you will be hunted by those who serve the heavens. Yuan frowned upon hearing this. He will be hunted no matter where he went in the 9 heavens? What did he do to deserve such a punishment? Furthermore, even if he can defeat everyone here today, it will be much harder for him to ascend now that the entire world is suddenly against him. So you will kill me today no matter what, is that correct? Yuan asked for confirmation. That's right. Lord Ji confirmed. Young master, no matter what you did, even if the entire world is your enemy, I will forever be your loyal servant. Feng Yuxiang suddenly said to him in a calm voice. Xiao Hua will always be with brother Yuan as well. Xiao Hua said. I swore my loyalty to you, Yuan. Even if the heavens are against you, I shall fight by your side. Lan Yingying said. Yuan smiled and said, Thank you. I'm really glad to have the 3 of you by my side. He then turned to look at Lord Ji and said, As much as I want to kill everyone here for wanting to kill me, I am not that ruthless, so consider yourselves lucky. Yuan knocked on the door to the stairway to heaven the next moment, causing it to open again. Let's go. There's no need to waste our time and effort on these idiots. Lord Ji was shocked to see that Yuan had managed to open the stairway to heaven again, but he wasn't going to let Yuan enter like the girls. He suddenly retrieved a golden medallion and activated his spiritual energy, Heaven's Regulation. Yuan, who was only a step from entering the stairway to heaven, suddenly felt an immense pressure that even he could not resist, and he was immediately brought down to his knees. Young master. Feng Yuxiang and the others were shocked to see Yuan in such a condition. I did not think I needed to use this treasure so early. However, since you were on the verge of escaping, I had no choice. Lord Ji said after taking a deep breath, feeling relieved that he managed to stop Yuan on time. What an immense pressure. What did he do to me? Yuan slowly turned his head to look at the medallion in Lord Ji's grasp. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. Yuan's eyes widened when he saw the golden medallion. However, this was his first time seeing such an item. Despite that, he felt like he had seen it before and he could feel something welling up inside him. This feeling, he recognized this emotion very well. It was the feeling of anger, intense anger that could burn even the heavens, and the only time he would feel this kind of emotion is when the evil god appears. Yuan's eyes slowly started turning blood red as the insane amount of anger started pumping his heart with adrenaline. Heaven's Regulation. I will destroy the heavens. Yuan muttered in a low but resolute voice. Damn heaven's puppets. I will destroy you all. Yuan suddenly released a deafening roar that caused a ripple that contained intense killing intent to appear, sweeping the area with his terrifying killing intent. Everyone below Spirit Master coughed up a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground after experiencing Yuan's killing intent that came only from his voice alone. What happened? Lord Ji and the others were shocked by Yuan's surprise attack that instantly took down all of their spirit warriors and spirit apprentices, which added up to over 100,000 casualties. A pair of beautiful yet ominous crimson wings suddenly sprouted from Yuan's back. Lord Ji and everyone there were horrified when they saw the crimson wings created from killing intent. Even Xiao Hua and the other two couldn't help but tremble before the majestic wings that were drooling red miasma. How is it possible for someone to have so much killing intent? Just how many people did he kill? Lord Ji cried inwardly after seeing Yuan's devil-like appearance, feeling a strong urge to turn around and run the opposite direction. Yuan slowly stood back up and turned to look at Lord Ji with a cold glare that could freeze even the yellow springs of the dead. Heaven's puppet. You will regret showing your face before my presence. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1005. Published at 27th of May 2022 9:09 and 22 seconds AM. Chapter 1005. 1005. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1005. Fighting Lord Ji and the 7 legacy families, KK kill them all. Lord Ji commanded everyone there in a trembling voice. The 200,000 remaining cultivators there started rushing forward. Seeing this, Yuan turned to look at Feng Yuxiang and the others. With a tranquil expression and a calm voice that could soothe even a crying baby, he spoke, "Leave nobody alive." With pleasure. A wide smile appeared on Feng Yuxiang's face as she flew away from the staircase and towards the army to the west, leaving a trail of beautiful golden flames wherever she went. Xiao Hua didn't say anything and flew towards the east. Once she was in front of the army, she retrieved 2 spiritual weapons that emitted an aura only divine-grade treasures can emit. As for Lan Yingying, she went in the direction where Lord Ji and the 7 leaders were not present, leaving them to Yuan. Once she was in the air, Lan Yingying transformed into a massive white serpent. The people there were greatly shocked by Lan Yingying's transformation. She was a magical beast this whole time? No. This divine aura around her, she's a divine beast. Lord Ji exclaimed. He couldn't believe his eyes. Why would a divine beast be with someone like Yuan, much less help him? Once she reached the army, Lan Yingying opened her mouth and breathed scared flames on them like a dragon. Everyone that was unfortunate enough to touch her sacred flames were instantly engulfed in her flames and burned until there was nothing left. Meanwhile, Feng Yuxiang would cause explosions whenever she went, even creating a sea of flames with her phoenix fire. Xiao Hua would casually swing her spiritual weapons and kill over a dozen people with a single swing. Terrified screams resounded in all directions and the 200,000 army quickly diminished. It was a one-sided slaughter that left Lord Ji and the leaders of the 7 legacy families utterly shocked and terrified, and they all wondered what kind of background Yuan had to be able to do something like this. However, they were also beginning to understand why the heavens wanted him dead. The heavens? Are they scared of his potential? He's only a spirit lord in the 2nd heaven, yet he's already amassed such prowess. Lord Ji wondered inwardly. Yuan took a deep breath and sighed out loud. The scent of heaven's puppets being slaughtered is always pleasing, but it's not enough. There's not enough blood, not enough carnage. Yuan suddenly summoned the Empyrean Overlord and flew towards Lord Ji and the 7 leaders. He's coming. Support me and let's kill him together. Lord Ji also retrieved his weapon and approached Yuan. The 7 leaders followed him from behind. You think you can kill me? Not even the Celestial Emperor could achieve such a feat, much less a few mutts like you. Yuan laughed out loud as he confronted Lord Ji in the air. Celestial Emperor? What nonsense are you mumbling about, you crazy monster? Lord Ji shouted as his sword collided with Yuan's greatsword. Clang. Ugh. Lord Ji gritted his teeth after feeling the impact behind Yuan's strike and was even pushed back many meters. What intense strength. Lord Ji cried inwardly as he tried to recover from the attack. Meanwhile, the 7 leaders surrounded Yuan and started unleashing their techniques at him simultaneously. Seeing this, Yuan used his wings to cover his body, leaving no gaps in his defenses. The power of 7 spirit kings clashed with Yuan. The attacks managed to create many holes in Yuan's wings, but these holes disappeared as quickly as they appeared, and the person himself was not hurt in the slightest. Impossible. How can he remain unharmed after eating all 7 of our attacks? What kind of technique is he using? Patriarch Gu exclaimed in a shocked voice. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. We don't have the time to think about it. Let's keep attacking him. I doubt he will be able to use that power for long. The leader of the Xian family, Patriarch Xian, shouted. Mongrels that can't tell the difference between heaven and earth, allow me to show you what happens when you point your weapons at me. Yuan suddenly gathered an immense amount of killing intent that condensed into a huge blade in the sky. Lord Ji and the 7 leaders were petrified on the spot from fear after witnessing the blade of killing intent in the sky. Azura's blade of execution. Yuan mumbled in a low voice as he gestured for the blade to fall towards Lord Ji and the 7 leaders. Xiao Hua momentarily stopped fighting when she noticed the blade in the sky. That technique. How does Brother Yuan know Xiao Hua's family technique? She cried inwardly. Lord Ji and the 7 leaders wanted to run away from the attack, but the pressure coming from the blade prevented them from going anywhere, forcing them to fight it head-on. Use all of your life-saving treasures. Lord Ji roared in a desperate voice. All of them immediately retrieved all of their life-saving treasures without daring to hold anything back, as their lives depended on whether they could defend this one strike from Yuan. Over 50 kinds of life-saving treasures stood before Yuan and the others. The Azura's blade of execution collided with the life-saving treasures a moment later, and it instantly shattered over half of them. As for the rest of the life-saving treasures, they did not last long either, and the blade continued to fall. Lord Ji and the others even used their blood essence to enhance the life-saving treasures, which would shorten their lifespan and damage their cultivation even if they survived the attack. However, they were desperate and did not want to die. Yuan, let's talk this through. Well, give up on trying to kill you. Have mercy. Lord Ji eventually tossed aside his pride and pleaded for mercy. The 7 leaders also begged for Yuan to spare their lives. However, Yuan's face remained nonchalant and he spoke in a calm voice. There is only one fate for those who dare block my path, death. And, starting now and until the end of the month, I will be giving bonus chapters for super gifts. Up to 3 bonus chapters will be released every day, not including the 2 daily chapters. Also, check out Magic System in a Parallel World while you're waiting for a new chapter. It has almost 80,000 words. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1006. Published at 27th of May 2022 9:09 and 21 seconds AM. Chapter 1006. 1006. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1006. Azura's blade of execution. There is only one fate for those who dare block my path, death. Yuan's words reverberate in Lord Js and the leaders' heads, putting them in a daze for a split second. However, this split second was more than enough to disturb their concentration and break their defenses. The heavens will never forgive you for this, Yuan. Lord Ji screamed at the top of his lungs as the Azura's blade of execution consumed their bodies, killing them instantly. Yuan wiped the sweat from his face after deactivating Azura's blade of execution. The technique required so much energy that it nearly exhausted all of his spiritual energy. The heavens will never forgive me? The heavens should be the one begging for forgiveness. He closed his eyes and began recovering his spiritual energy while hovering in midair. When the army saw this, they saw this as a chance to avenge their leaders and kill Yuan while he was weak. And since there were so many people there, Xiao Hua and the others could not hold them all back from reaching Yuan. However, their help wasn't necessary because Yuan still had more than enough energy to deal with the leftovers of the Ji family and the 7 legacy families. Without opening his eyes or moving his body, Yuan used the starry abyss to kill anyone that dared to approach him. Eventually, the rest of the army started fleeing from the battle. With their leaders dead and without having anyone strong enough to deal with Yuan's servants, much less Yuan himself, it was basically a suicide mission with no chance of winning, so the people did what was natural: abandon the fight and run away. Where do you ants think you're going? There is nowhere for you to run. The young master has ordered us to leave none alive. All of you insignificant ants that dared to point their weapons at my young master will perish here today. Feng Yuxiang exclaimed as she released the strongest technique that she could muster with her current strength. Phoenix Flames Burning Heaven's Art. Feng Yuxiang summoned her fiery wings, and flames started appearing in the sky above her, almost as though the heavens were on fire. Burn them all. Feng Yuxiang flicked her sleeves, causing the sea of flames in the sky to rain down countless fiery projectiles that took the shape of a feather. Yeah. In mere seconds, tens of thousands of cultivators fell to Feng Yuxiang's attack. Not wanting to lose to Feng Yuxiang, Xiao Hua started releasing heaven-splitting sword strikes with every swing, changing the landscape there within moments. When Lan Yingying saw their awe-inspiring performance, she felt a rush of adrenaline coursing through her body and her heart throbbing with excitement. The three servants felt as though something had ignited within their hearts after Yuan gave them their first order to fight for him, so they wanted to perform to the best of their abilities. Although it felt like a long time had passed, in reality, only a few minutes have passed since the fight began. The battlefield eventually became quiet, and Xiao Hua and the others returned to Yuan's side, their mission finished. Young master, we have eradicated everyone from the 7 legacy families and the Ji family. What are your orders now? Feng Yuxiang said to him with a satisfied look on her face. Yuan looked at the destruction that they had caused and spoke, "We have done something irreversible today. We might kill even more people in the future, soaking our bodies in blood. I won't blame you even if you wish to leave my side now. Even if you order me to kill everyone in the 9 heavens, I would not hesitate to stain my hands for you, young master," Feng Yuxiang said. Xiao Hua too. Xiao Hua also said. Lan Yingying silently nodded her head. Yuan smiled when he saw the resolve in their eyes, and he spoke in a calm voice, "I'm really fortunate to have companions like you by my side. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters." Sometime later, Yuan's appearance returned to normal, and the evil god's presence could no longer be felt. "Let's gather all of the treasures here before we leave. It would be a waste to leave them here," he said to them a moment later. They proceeded to gather all of the spatial rings and storage pouches from the battlefield. "Young master, I have been wanting to ask you this for a while now, but how many reincarnations have you experienced? And do you have memories from all of your past life?" Feng Yuxiang asked him as they looted the corpses. "I don't know. I'm only aware of 4 at this moment, and I don't have all of their memories. I have recently assimilated the Divine Paragon's memories, but I can only absorb so much at a time, so it will be a while before I fully regain all of the Divine Paragon's memories, and until I do that I cannot touch the others' memories. Though they sometimes leak out just like a few minutes ago," he explained to them. "Who was responsible for the event just now?" Feng Yuxiang asked him. "He calls himself the evil god. He seems to be an infamous killer that has killed countless people in the past, but I think there is more to it." "Evil god, huh? The name sounds familiar, but I cannot remember where I heard it from," Feng Yuxiang said with a pondering face. Xiao Hua then spoke, "Brother Yuan? That technique you used just now, is it also because of the evil god?" He nodded. "That's right. Azura's blade of execution, huh? It's the strongest technique I have seen thus far. It must be at least an ancient rank technique." "It's a mythic rank technique from Xiao Hua's family," she revealed to him the origin of the technique. "What? Really?" Yuan looked at her with wide eyes. "So the evil god is somehow connected with your family? How surprising," Yuan mumbled. "But Xiao Hua doesn't know any evil god." She shook head. "It's fine. We don't need to know everything right away. We will find the answers eventually." Xiao Hua nodded. "If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters." Chapter 1007. Published at 27th of May 2022 9:09 and 22 AM. Chapter 1007. 1007. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1007. Shocking the spirit heaven. After Meishio and the others entered the stairway to heaven, they appeared in the spectators' room. "Where are we? This is the stairway to heaven?" Li Jinsi looked around with a curious gaze. "This is just the spectators' room. We'll be watching Yuan participate in the trials from here. This way we can't disturb him," Chu Liuxiang explained. "I see." The 3 of them proceeded to wait in silence. 10 minutes passed, but it felt more like an hour to the 3 ladies that were anxiously waiting for Yuan to enter the stairway to heaven. "How long has it been since we entered the stairway to heaven? It's taking too long. Did something happen to him out there?" Chu Liuxiang was the first to talk about it. "With Feng Feng and the others with him, it will be fine," Meishio calmly said. "Are they really that powerful? I have never seen them fight before though," Chu Liuxiang said. "I haven't either, but the feeling I get from them is more powerful than anyone I have met in Meanwhile, Yuan and the others finally finished looting all of the corpses after much effort. How much do you think we'll get out of this? Yuan asked after putting away the treasures. Honestly, you would have gotten more money from the life-saving treasures, but they were all destroyed. Feng Yuxiang said. Well, there's nothing I can do about that now. Yuan shrugged. Let's enter the stairway to heaven now. I don't want the others to worry since it's been a while. He went to knock on the door shortly after. Once the stairway to heaven opened, Yuan walked into the void. Feng Yuxiang and the other two were teleported to the spectators' room after they entered. Welcome back, Master. A small figure approached Yuan shortly after he appeared inside the stairway to heaven. Thank you for opening the doors, Tiana. To be honest, I wasn't confident that you would do it, but I had to try. Yuan said. You are the true master of the stairway to heaven. The others are just fakes. She said. Anyways, do you mind if I take some time to recover my energy before we start? I'm a little exhausted right now. Tiana nodded. Take as long as you need, Master. The trials will not officially start until you walk those stairs. Thank you. Yuan took a seat right on the spot and began cultivating. Tiana sat before him and actually helped him recover his energy by guiding the spiritual energy within the stairway to heaven, making it much easier for him to absorb. Evil God. Why did you feel so much rage when you saw that golden medallion? What did it mean to you? Yuan wondered to himself as he cultivated. Meanwhile, outside the stairway to heaven, news of the battle that had taken place there began spreading throughout the entire spirit heaven like a massive wildfire. The sheer destruction and damage the place had to endure shocked everyone in that realm. However, almost nobody in spirit heaven knew what had occurred there. The only people that knew of the situation were those in the 7 legacy families and the Ji family that stayed behind and did not participate in the battle, so not even the 7, now 6 spiritual academies knew the full situation. When news of the battle reached the ears of those within the 7 legacy families and the Ji family, they were all shocked and became filled with despair, which was only ordinary as their leaders and most senior members had all perished in a single day. Such devastation was unprecedented for all of these families. Besides a few elders and the younger generation, pretty much the rest of their families were gone. Their numbers had diminished so much that they would no longer be considered a legacy family. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. Contact our families in the upper heavens. We cannot let that criminal escape. Since he's ascending through the stairway to heaven, they can set up an ambush outside. The 7 legacy families wasted no time contacting their families in the upper heavens, letting them know of the situation. What? A single person had defeated our 7 legacy families and the Ji family? How is that even possible? The families in the upper heavens doubted this information because it sounded utterly ridiculous and impossible. We're not sure if he was working alone or had help, but it's true that everyone who had gone to kill him is dead. That's preposterous. What in heaven's name happened down there? The upper families demanded an explanation. The Ji family had ordered our 7 legacy families to bring out all of our forces after someone had been judged black by heaven's judgment. You fool. Why did you agree to help him? The 7 legacy families may have some connections to the Ji family, but we're not their soldiers. The leaders thought it was going to be easy since they were only going to kill a single spirit lord, and they didn't want to lose face. However, it seems like everyone has underestimated this spirit lord, who has unfathomable prowess. What about Lord Ji and the Ji family? Lord Ji was also killed in action. However, we don't know how their family is reacting to the news. I think I can imagine how they're reacting. The leaders of the 7 legacy families from the upper heavens side. Where is this person that dared to slaughter people from our family? Tell me everything about him. The families from spirit heaven proceeded to tell them everything they knew about Yuan and that he had entered the stairway to heaven to ascend. I understand. Even if he manages to ascend, we will all be waiting for him outside the stairway to heaven. The 3rd heaven will be his last stop. Meanwhile, at the Ji family, a small group of individuals gathered in the meeting room, all of them showing signs of grief, as they just received news about the result of the battle. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1008, published at 27th of May 2022 9:09 and 19 seconds AM. Chapter 1008. 1008 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1008. Preparing their ambush inside the meeting room, one of the people there suddenly spoke after a long moment of silence in the room. Is it true that my father is dead? Yes, it's true. His life tablet is destroyed, and news of what happened at the stairway to heaven has already spread throughout the entire realm. It will only be a matter of time before the people in the upper heavens learn of the massacre. Have we notified our family in third heaven yet? No, not yet. Then what the fuck are we doing here? We need to notify them as soon as possible. We also need to have someone watching the stairway to heaven just in case he fails and stays down here for a little longer. If this Yuan is talented enough to slaughter the 7 legacy families in our G family while we're working together, there's no way that he wouldn't be able to ascend the stairway to heaven. I'm going to notify the family in third heaven. Time is of the essence right now. We cannot allow this criminal who has been sentenced by the heavens to get away with his crimes. The direct descendant of Lord G left the room shortly after while everyone else remained in the meeting room to discuss their future. Now that the majority of our forces along with Lord G are dead, our family has practically become a chicken on the chopping board waiting to be slaughtered by our enemies. The moment our enemies learn the truth, that our family is defenseless, they will definitely attack us and try to replace us. This is a disaster not just for us. Even those in the upper heavens will be affected by this mess. What can we do? Go into hiding? How many years will it take before we can regain enough strength to manage this realm again? The spirit heavens will be destroyed by the wars that will soon plague this land before then. We cannot do this alone. We've sustained too much damage to survive by ourselves now. Then we can only request for reinforcements and assistance from our family in the upper heavens for the time being. Meanwhile, the 6 spiritual academies were also having a meeting of their own to talk about the recent events. I don't want to make any speculations, but there is only one person that I can think of who could possibly make such a scene. Sect Master Xiahou sighed. Are you talking about Yuan? That was my first thought as well. He also slaughtered the Gu family in the Universal Music Academy. Sect Master Li said. According to our investigation, the corpses there belong to the 7 legacy families and the G family. Besides them, who else could possibly amass such a massive army? But why would they attack Yuan? Do you think it has anything to do with what happened at the Spirit Healing Academy? It's possible, but we won't know for sure until we speak with them. Will they even tell us about it? I doubt they would want to talk about such a massive loss. They have to, if they want our support. I highly doubt they will be able to defend themselves after losing so many people. Their families are practically crippled right now. Sect Master Li said. And when a family as prosperous as the 7 legacy families and the G family suddenly become this weak, it's inevitable that they become the target of pretty much every power out there. Bainju sighed. We should also prepare ourselves for some visitors from the upper heaven. I doubt they will stay silent after something like this happened. They will most likely come down here to assist their own families. Just like the sect masters had anticipated, the 7 legacy families and the G family in the third heaven immediately started preparing to send experts to ambush Yuan at the stairway to heaven after learning of the situation. Furthermore, each family prepared a couple of spirit kings to send to spirit heaven to protect them while they recovered. Even though it will cost them an astronomical amount of resources to send so many experts, they couldn't allow their families in the spirit heaven to perish, not to mention that their techniques and secrets could be stolen by outsiders. The residents in third heaven were greatly alarmed when the 7 legacy families and the G family suddenly gathered a massive army outside the stairway to heaven. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. When they eventually learned of the situation in the spirit heaven, they understood why such drastic measures were being taken, and the entire world held their breath while they waited for Yuan to come out of the stairway to heaven, where he would take his last breaths. Meanwhile, inside the stairway to heaven, Yuan opened his eyes after recovering from his exhaustion. Thank you, Tiana. I feel even better than normal for some reason. Yuan said to her afterward. The spiritual energy inside the stairway to heaven is naturally pure, so you will gain more energy from it, she explained. I am going to climb the stairway to heaven now, Yuan said a moment later. After approaching the staircase, he started climbing it, slowly ascending towards the next realm. Even though it may not seem like it, every step Yuan took inside the stairway to heaven was akin to traveling hundreds of thousands of miles in reality. Sometime later, Yuan arrived at the first trial. For the first trial, you must defend the city and survive for 24 hours. If the casualties in the city surpass 60%, you will fail the trial. Tiana explained to him. A city defending trial, huh? It's the complete opposite of the previous trial where I had to kill the city lord. Yuan smiled. A moment later, his scenery began to change. Once he could see clearly again, Yuan found himself inside the peak of a pagoda, and to his surprise, this was the exact same place that had fought the city lord during the first trial in the past. Since I am protecting the city and I am in this place, does this make me the city lord now? He wondered out loud. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1009. Published at 28th of May 2022 8:52 and 24 seconds AM. Chapter 1009. Chapter 1009. City Lord. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1009. City Lord Yuan walked to the window and looked outside. The city was quite massive, but it was not so big that he couldn't see the borders from his location. In fact, he could see the entire city up there. I don't see anyone attacking just yet, Yuan thought to himself as he surveyed the city's surroundings. City Lord. A voice suddenly called for him. He turned to look at the door, where a middle-aged man with a cultivation of a peak spirit king stood. What's the matter? We have received a report from our scouts that there is an army of 10,000 approaching the direction of our city from the north, their intentions unknown. They have over 9,000 spirit lords and 1,000 spirit kings. With such forces, I doubt they're coming here to have tea. What are your orders, City Lord? The man reported. Yuan's jaw almost dropped to the ground after hearing the report. Over 1,000 spirit kings? The difficulty has ramped up so much compared to the last trial. He cried inwardly. He wasn't confident that he would be able to defeat such a powerful army even at his current state. Then he realized something. What's the condition of our army looking like? He asked the middle-aged man who was wearing military armor. We have 1,000 spirit lords and 500 spirit kings ready to be deployed at this moment, said the middle-aged man. That's slightly above 10% of their total forces. This is going to be rough, especially if we wait for them to come. If I want that special reward, I will have to make sure that they don't get close to the city. In order for this to happen, I will have to go to them. After pondering for some time and coming up with a conclusion, Yuan turned to the middle-aged man and spoke. How far away are these people? They're about 2 hours away. Yuan nodded and said, bring half of our forces with me. We're going to intercept them before they can get close to our city. As for the other half, leave them here just in case they have reinforcements. As you command, City Lord. Half an hour later, Yuan and 750 soldiers left the city and made their way towards the north. Sometime later, once they could see the enemy with their eyes, Yuan stopped and said, wait for my order. Yes. The most up-to-date novels are published on. Yuan summoned the Empyrean Overlord and took a deep breath before he started gathering spiritual energy. There's only one way for us to defeat them. Taking them by surprise. When the enemy noticed Yuan and his small army, they stopped for a moment before resuming their movements. In their eyes, there was no way that an army of that size could possibly defeat their army with 10,000 experts. Keep moving. They're probably just here to speak with us. We will pretend to be peaceful, but once we're close enough, we're going to kill all of them. The general leading that armor commanded. Yes. However, the closer they got to Yuan's army, the more they felt uneasy for some reason. General, I think there is something wrong here. Once they were close enough to see Yuan's face, they were surprised. General. That's the City Lord. What's he doing out here? I can see that. But this is great. If we can kill him here, his city will be wide open for us to conquer. The general laughed as they continued to approach Yuan. However, once they got close enough, Yuan suddenly released the heavenly sword strike with his full power. A massive beam of sword light flew towards the army that was too close to dodge properly, instantly killing 70% of the people there. The soldiers behind Yuan were shocked speechless after witnessing the scene. Attack them now. I will join you guys after I recover some spiritual energy. He said to them. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. Yes. The soldiers snapped out of their daze and flew towards the opposing army. Thanks to Yuan's heaven-splitting sword strike, the opposing army was in dismay, and they were too dazed to fight properly, allowing Yuan's small army to dominate them. Yuan joined the battle shortly after, quickly killing off everyone there. That was amazing, City Lord. You took out more than half of their army with a single technique. As expected of the City Lord, who is known as the God of War. His soldiers praised him non-stop after the battle. How many casualties were there? Yuan asked them. We have lost several soldiers, 3 Spirit Lord and 1 Spirit King. However, this little amount of casualties is like a miracle considering the size of our enemy's army. Let's return to the city for now. Make sure you reward the families of those that had fallen in battle today. Yuan said to them. Yes. After returning to the city, Yuan stared at the throne on the peak of the pagoda with a pondering face. That man. He called me the god of war. Who is that? Tianyang? Or is he another incarnation? He wondered. After pondering for a moment, he decided to forget about it for now and sat down to cultivate. I still have 20 hours left. I doubt this trial will end just like that. Just as had predicted, about 4 hours later, the middle-aged man returned with more news. City Lord, I have just received a report that there is another army. They are coming from the west and they have 20,000 soldiers. 20,000 soldiers? That's doubled compared to the last army. Yuan cried inwardly. At this rate, he will need another massive area of effect technique besides the heaven-splitting sword strike to deal with them. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1010. Published at 29th of May 2022 2:09 and 18 seconds AM. Chapter 1010. 1010. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1010, City of Xianham? Wait a second. I learned how to do arrays when I was inside the stairway to heaven. Maybe I can learn some new techniques while I am the lord of this city. Yuan mumbled to himself as he got this genius idea. As the city lord, surely he should have some decent techniques stored away. Unfortunately, he did not have the time to look for these techniques, as there was an army heading towards his city. Let's go. We're going to do the same thing we did for the last intruder, but we're going to bring more soldiers this time. Yes. The general left to gather the soldiers. Sometime later, they left the city and started flying towards the direction of the intruders. Once they could see the enemies, Yuan repeated what he did to the previous intruders, surprising them with a fully powered heaven-splitting sword strike that changed the landscape and instantly killed thousands of intruders. But alas, even though Head managed to cut the intruders' numbers by 70%, the intruders still outnumbered them immensely. After taking some time to recover his spiritual energy, Yuan joined the battle with the Empyrean Overlord in his grasp and the Starry Abyss by his side. 10,000 ghost blades. He cloned the Starry Abyss 10,000 times and used them to assist the other soldiers. The blood of his enemies and allies rained from the sky as the battle raged for many minutes. Half an hour later, Yuan fell to his knees and started gasping for air. Fortunately, the battle had already ended and they were victorious, so he didn't have to worry about the enemies and rested. Are you okay, City Lord? His soldiers approached him with worried looks on their faces when they noticed how many injuries were on his body. Even though the intruders were all spirit lords and spirit kings, they were much stronger than the cultivators in the 9 heavens that have the same cultivation base. Even with his invisible dragon cloak, he had sustained injuries. I am fine. These all are superficial injuries. They will heal in an instant, Yuan said to them. And sure enough, his regeneration ability kicked in the following moment, healing his wounds fast enough for the soldiers to witness it with their bare eyes. If it were not for the invisible dragon cloak weakening most of the damage, that would have been very dangerous. He sighed inwardly. What about you guys? Are you fine? What about the casualties? He asked them a moment later. It's not good. We lost around 300 men. The general shook his head with a pained expression on his face. 300? That's almost a third of the amount of soldiers I brought with me. This is bad. And I still have to survive for over half a day. There will definitely be another invasion or 2 left. If I don't do something, I just might fail the first trial. Yuan was beginning to feel the pressure of the trials. Compared to the last time he challenged the stairway to heaven, the difficulty has truly increased by leaps and bounds. Yuan began regretting his decision to purposefully increase the difficulty of the stairway to heaven by letting Li Jinsi and the others follow him, even though he could have simply challenged the stairway to heaven by himself. After all, the stairway to heaven opened for all of the players when he cleared it the last time. However, it was also true that he didn't want to risk the stairway to heaven not opening for everyone after he cleared it. After returning to the city, Yuan immediately started to cultivate to recover his exhausted spiritual energy. Once he recovered enough spiritual energy, he started looking around the pagoda to see if there were any hidden techniques or treasures inside. He started from the highest floor of the pagoda, slowly making his way down. However, even after searching the entire pagoda, he was unable to find any secret rooms or techniques. Nothing, huh? Yuan sighed as he returned to the peak of the pagoda and stared outside the city. After staring at the city for several minutes, Yuan started getting the feeling that he has been to this place before. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. Why am I suddenly feeling nostalgic? It's not like I have been here. Actually, I have, but that was during the last trial. I barely looked at the city at that time and rushed straight to this place to challenge the city lord, so it wouldn't make sense that I am feeling nostalgia from that time. After pondering for some time, Yuan could only come to one conclusion. The city? I have definitely been here before, in my past life. The location of this trial is not random, is it? Perhaps this place was reconstructed with the memories of my past life? This actually makes a lot of sense. If this is really the case, that this place is from my memories and I am feeling nostalgia, then I should be able to remember it if I dig deep enough like the last time. SSF. XSS. Sometime later, Yuan took a seat in the lotus position and closed his eyes. Once he returned to the deepest parts of his subconsciousness, he started searching through his memories. Although he's only accepted the divine paragon's memories at this moment, his other memories would occasionally leak, so he could see bits and pieces of memories from his other identities. Many minutes later, after going through many memories, he eventually found what he was looking for. City of Xian, he muttered the name of the city that he was currently residing in. Once he found what he was looking for, Yuan opened his eyes and flew outside the window. He flew towards the east side of the city until he landed in front of a small but clean building. When he looked at this small building, he couldn't help but feel emotional and shed some tears, even though he didn't know why. After taking a deep breath and calming down a little, he approached it. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1011. Published at 29th of May 2022, 4:27 and 19 seconds p.m. Chapter 1011. 1011. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1011. A familiar voice. Once he was in front of the door, Yuan subconsciously opened the door and entered it, all of his movements feeling incredibly natural, almost as though had done the same actions for years. Welcome home. A familiar voice suddenly resounded from the second floor. Yuan raised an eyebrow after hearing this noise. Even without needing to look into his memories, he recognized this voice very well. However, why would this voice appear in this place? That part didn't make sense at all. Yuan ignored everything on the first floor and quickly made his way onto the second floor of the building. There were 3 rooms on the second floor. Only one of these rooms had a closed door, so Yuan approached that room. After knocking on the door, he spoke, "Is it okay if I come inside?" "Of course. This is your room as well." The familiar voice returned again. Yuan swallowed nervously before opening the door very slowly. Once the door was opened wide enough, Yuan looked into the room to see a beautiful mature woman with long black hair sitting on the bed beside the window. This woman had a sharp yet delicate face, and her clear black eyes shimmered like the sea during the summer. When her gaze landed on Yuan, his body trembled. "Meishio?" Yuan muttered after seeing this mature woman who looked exactly like Meishio but about 10 years older. "What are you mumbling about, you silly? Come over here," she said to him with a gentle smile on her face. Yuan subconsciously started approaching the bed, his eyes staring directly at her face without moving. "What's wrong? Why are you so quiet? Did something happen?" she asked him. "Why yeah. Our city was under attack." "What? Is everything okay?" "For now. I have taken care of them, but there's a good chance that they will return." "I see. Well, as long as we have you, there's nothing to worry about. Isn't that right, God of War Tianxian?" "Why yes," he nodded in a dazed manner. "Tianxian? Surname Tian. This is most definitely one of my past lives. So I was a city lord and also the God of War, huh? Anyways, why have you returned home? Don't tell me that you came home just to see me? Although I'm flattered and very happy, I want you to focus on defending the city and its people first. I came back for my techniques. I might need them to defeat our enemies. Do you remember where I put them?" "I forgot," he said in a stiff voice. This kind of excuse would have never worked in the real world, but since this is merely an illusion created by the stairway to heaven, he decided to test his luck. "It seems I have underestimated our situation. For you to forget about something so important, you must be feeling overwhelmed." She sighed. "Yes. A lot of our soldiers have died today and even more will die at this rate. I'm afraid that I won't be able to protect this city. Come over here." She suddenly opened her arms, gesturing for a hug. Yuan subconsciously lowered his body, and when he did, the woman grabbed his head and pulled it towards her chest. Yuan could feel her soft blossoms pressing against his head, but there was something else that caught his attention when he touched this woman that resembled Meishio. Her stomach. There's something off about it, he thought to himself. A few moments later the woman said, "Let me show you where the techniques are stored." After releasing him, the woman removed the blankets covering her body. When Yuan saw this woman's body and her bulged stomach, his eyes widened with shock. She's pregnant? Yuan cried inwardly after seeing her round stomach. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. When the woman noticed Yuan staring at her stomach, she smiled and said, "It's been a while since you saw it, huh? The doctor said that I will be able to give birth in 3 months. Yuan swallowed nervously after hearing her words, realizing that this is his first incarnation with a wife and a child. He always thought that he had no family of his own, not even in his previous lives, so this was quite the eye-opener. The woman proceeded to lead Yuan to the basement. The basement was completely empty when they entered it, but Yuan could somehow tell that there was an invisible formation protecting this place, and it was quite powerful, so powerful that even he cannot see it. Once they descended the staircase, the woman retrieved some kind of treasure and activated it using her spiritual energy. A portal opened up in the middle of the room a moment later. What kind of hiding spot is this? There's no way that I would have been able to find this without her help. Yuan cried inwardly after seeing the secret entrance. Upon entering the portal, they appeared inside a small square room that had no windows or gaps. The room was completely enclosed with no way in or out besides the portal in his basement. Inside this enclosed room was a single bookshelf. However, on this bookshelf was a single scroll. Yuan walked to the bookshelf and took the scroll before opening it and glancing over it. After memorizing the contents, Yuan placed the technique back on the shelf and looked at the woman. "Thank you. I think I have what I need to defend this city now," he said with a smile. "That's good to hear. I would like for our child to grow up in this place after all." She chuckled. They left the secret room and returned to the small 2-floor house shortly after. Yuan followed the woman back to her room. Once she was back in the bed, she said to him, "He'll see you later, dear." "Yes. See you later." Yuan stared at her face for another moment before leaving the place and returning to the pagoda. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1012. Published at 29th of May 2022 4:27 and 18 seconds p.m. Chapter 1012. 1012 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1012, He's back. Amatio. Look at that. She looks just like you. Chu Liuxiang exclaimed as she pointed to the mature woman in the spectator's room. However, Meisha was too stumped to even respond to her. "She's pregnant? With my face? Are the heavens making fun of me? Are you trying to tell me something?" Meisha couldn't believe her eyes. Just the other day her mother was pressuring her to have a baby with Yuan, and now this. If this wasn't a sign from the gods, what would be? During the last stairway to heaven, there was somebody with your face. Feng Yuxiang suddenly said as she looked at Chu Liuxiang. "I remember," she sighed. And she continued, "Why is the stairway to heaven using our faces anyway? It seems a bit odd and random. I can only assume that it's trying to stir with the young master's emotions by including people that he cares about into the trials." Feng Yuxiang shrugged. "But why a pregnant woman?" Meisha shook her head with a bittersweet smile on her face. "But you have to admit it looks very authentic. I wonder if that's what you will look like in 10 years. Li Jinxi said. Meanwhile, Yuan returned to the peak of the pagoda, where he tried to learn the technique inside the secret room. However, the image of Meisha kept on appearing inside his head, thwarting his focus on the technique. This technique is very profound. It should be at least ancient rank, but this means that it will take longer for me to comprehend, and this distraction is not helping. Hopefully, I will be able to learn it before the next invasion. After 3 hours of peace, the general of the army returned. City Lord, I have an emergency report. There is an army of 100,000 soldiers approaching our city from the east and the west. They will arrive in 8 hours. 100,000? Yuan could feel his heart dropping after hearing such a report. Compared to the last invasion, this one was on a whole other level. However, he managed to keep his composure and said, I understand. I will call you when I am ready. Do not disturb me before then no matter what. I will be entering closed-door cultivation now. Yes. The general disappeared shortly after. Hours? Will I be able to do it? He sighed inwardly. No, I have to do it. After taking a deep breath, Yuan closed his eyes and cleared his head of all unnecessary thoughts. Once he could focus on the technique, he started reciting the scripture inside his head. Many hours later, where is the city lord? The intruders are less than an hour away from the city. The soldiers approached the general and asked. The city lord is currently in closed-door cultivation. He will appear when the time is right. Even if you say that. Our opponents this time have nearly 100 times our number, and they're attacking us from two sides. Even if he's the god of war who hasn't lost a single battle in his life, there is always a first for anything. Perhaps today is the day that the god of war experiences defeat. What kind of nonsense is that? Have faith in the god of war. How many years have we followed him? How many times did we enter battle thinking that it was an impossible fight? How many times has he managed to surprise us? This time will be no different. Even if we're fighting against 1,000,000 soldiers, we will be victorious and remain undefeated. I really hope that will be the case. The soldiers their side. Despite the general's words, they couldn't help but fear the worst. After all, they had to fight an army of 100,000 soldiers while only having a little over 1,000 soldiers themselves. Half an hour later, the general received another report from the scout. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. General. The enemy will reach the city walls in 15 minutes. What are your orders? The general turned to look at the tall pagoda that stood proudly in the center of the city and said, We wait for the city lord. We will not move until we receive his order, even if the entire city is burned to the ground. What? That's outrageous. If you want to fight the army by yourself, you are free to do so. However, I will wait for the city lord. The soldiers there looked at each other with perplexed looks on their faces, feeling conflicted. They wanted to trust their general and the city lord, but by doing so they risked letting the enemy destroy the city. However, once they thought about it, they realized that they were doomed without the city lord, so they had no choice but to wait. Meanwhile, two different armies with 50,000 soldiers each quickly approached the city of Xian. I see the city walls. The so-called unconquerable city shall be conquered by my Red Lion army today. Ah! One of the generals laughed out loud as they got closer to the city. Inside the city of Xian, its tiny army began panicking for real when they could see the Red Lion army closing in. Is the city lord still not here? We're doomed. Damn it. I thought I would die on a fierce battlefield. This may be fierce, but this isn't a battlefield. This is a freaking slaughterhouse. Unbeknownst to these soldiers and even the spectators in the spectators' room, an announcement was hovering in the sky for all players to see. Due to how long Cultivation Online has been out, announcements these days were very rare. Although there was still a lot to be discovered in Spirit Heaven, most of the players did not have the capability to explore this vast land. I'll look at the announcement. He's back. The players exclaimed in excitement when they saw the name in the announcement. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1013. Published at 30th of May 2022 4:27 and 14 seconds p.m. Chapter 1013. 1013. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1013. God of War's Astral Arts. General. The enemy is right outside our city walls. They're demanding that we surrender the city. A soldier reported to the general. However, before he could even respond, a loud and arrogant voice resounded from outside the city. Surrender and there won't be unnecessary bloodshed. We have over 100,000 soldiers, all above Spirit Lord. You will not win this battle with your puny army. I would also prefer for this city to be intact after we conquer it. You have half an hour to come to a decision. I repeat, surrender and we will spare your lives. The only one who has to die is the city lord Tianxian. The place fell silent afterward. After a few moments of absolute silence, once everyone realized their situation, the entire city of Xian began panicking. City Lord, save us. Where is the God of War when we need him? Do you think a single person can get rid of our predicament? Even if he's the God of War, there's no way that he would be able to defeat an army of 100,000 by himself. What about his army? The army had suffered a huge loss recently after an intense battle that lasted for 30 days and nights straight. We barely have anyone left. Damn it, are we truly doomed? I have faith in the city lord. He has never disappointed us before. Open your damn eyes. This is an unwinnable battle. Time passed in an instant while the residents of the city panicked for 30 minutes straight. The general outside the city spoke again. Time is up. 30 minutes have passed. We showed mercy, yet you ignored our generosity. Since this is how you want to play, we will play. All forces, charge. Kill everyone who opposes. The 100,000-strong army began rushing towards the city of Xian. However, an immense pressure suddenly enveloped the whole place, forcing the soldiers to halt their steps. The soldiers outside the city and the residents in the city all lifted their heads to look towards the pagoda in the middle of the city, where a majestic figure with an overwhelming aura could be seen hovering in the sky, his presence demanding for everyone's submission. The city lord. It's the city lord. He's finally here to save us. You idiot. Even if he's here, what can he do against such a powerful army? We're still doomed. Meanwhile, you have finally decided to crawl out of your rat hole, god of war. The Red Lion Army's general laughed out loud, his laughter causing ripples in the air. Yuan glanced at the Red Lion Army that surrounded the city. Surrender yourself, god of war. If you do, we won't lay a finger on your city or the residents. The people in the city swallowed nervously, and they all anxiously waited for Yuan's response. Yuan took a deep breath and spoke, I have a slightly different proposal. Get out of my face before I kill all of you. The residents in the city began crying after hearing Yuan's words. We're all dead. It's over for this city. The city lord is too arrogant. All those victories must have got into his head and made him disconnected from reality. If you want to commit suicide, go do it by yourself. Don't drag the rest of us into your madness. The residents of the city that had been loyal to him for many years have finally lost their hope and respect. After all, a righteous and reasonable city lord would sacrifice himself for his city without hesitation. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. However, Yuan ignored the complaints coming from beneath him, as he was sure that it was the stairway to heaven trying to stir his emotions. He closed his eyes and took a deep breath as he recited the technique he'd just learned inside his head. When he opened his eyes, they glowed golden, and a subtle but visible golden aura started appearing from his body. He summoned the Empyrean Overlord and spoke in a cold voice, All of you will be my training puppets for today. God of War's astral arts. The people there watched as Yuan's golden aura started expanding at a rapid rate until it was large enough to cover the entire city of Xian. Once it stopped growing, the aura began transforming until it resembled half a human wearing a golden armor. Furthermore, it had two massive arms that were wielding a large greatsword that resembled the Empyrean Overlord. What in heaven's name is that technique? The intruders cried out loud when they saw the giant behind Yuan, feeling as though they were ants before an elephant. I need to finish this fast. I can feel my strength being exhausted at a ridiculous rate. Yuan cried inwardly after realizing how much energy this technique required. He took a deep breath before swinging the Empyrean Overlord in his grasp, and the astral avatar followed his movements, sweeping the army outside the city with its massive sword. Boom. The entire ground viciously shook, and an unimaginable crater appeared in the ground where one of the armies stood. As for the army, they were all completely flattened with a single strike, all 50,000 of them. When the other army saw the destruction caused by the astral avatar, their faces paled. Scatter. Scatter. The general leading that army roared. But alas, the astral avatar was already in a swinging motion. The ground shook for a second time when the first earthquake hadn't even ended yet. After killing all 100,000 soldiers from the Red Lion Army with 2 mere strikes, Yuan deactivated the technique and immediately returned to the pagoda to rest, not even bothering to look at the destruction had caused. The entire city was dead silent afterward, and it would remain silent for many minutes with not a single person there believing what they had just witnessed. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1014. Published at 30th of May 2022 4:27 and 13 seconds p.m. Chapter 1014. 1014. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1014. Proceeding to the second trial, what in heaven's name was that technique just now? I have never seen anything remotely that powerful before. Feng Yuxiang cried out loud after seeing Yuan decimate an entire army of 100,000 spirit lords and spirit kings with 2 strikes. I have never seen Brother Yuan use that technique before. He must have just learned it. Xiaohua said. You can actually learn techniques while doing trials in the stairway to heaven? How come I have never heard of such a thing? And judging by the prowess of that technique, I dare say that it's at least an ancient rank technique if not mythic rank. Feng Yuxiang was in disbelief. If people realized that they could learn such powerful techniques inside the stairway to heaven for free, there would definitely be a massive uproar throughout the 9 heavens. Meanwhile, back at the pagoda, Yuan gave up on trying to recover his soul strength after realizing that he didn't have any cultivation techniques that recovered his soul strength. Unlike spiritual energy, soul strength could not be restored through ordinary cultivation techniques. In order to recover soul strength faster than naturally allowed, one must know a soul cultivation technique, but these techniques are incredibly rare even in the upper heavens. Looks like I won't be able to use the God of War's astral arts until my soul strength naturally recovers. Fortunately, I can still use my other techniques that only require spiritual energy. He sighed inwardly. Despite the God of War's astral arts' immense power and seemingly unlimited potential, it was not something he could use too often at this moment. Until he acquires a soul cultivation technique, he will have to limit its usage for life or death situations. After giving up trying to restore his soul strength, Yuan looked at the amount of time he had left. Less than 15 minutes left. Sometime later, he returned to the house with the woman who looked exactly like Meishio. "Is everything okay?" she asked him as she gently rubbed her round stomach. "Yes, I have dealt with the intruders. The city is safe again." He nodded. "That's good to hear. Now our child can grow up in the city that you have painstakingly protected and developed," she said with a beautiful smile on her face. "Have you thought of a name for the child yet?" Yuan suddenly asked out of curiosity. "No, not yet. I was hoping we could name her together." "It's a girl, huh?" he smiled. "Here you go." The woman suddenly extended her hands, offering him a glowing orb of light. "Thank you." Yuan accepted the orb of light and absorbed it. However, his cultivation base did not increase like the previous reward. Instead, he could feel his soul strength becoming stronger. Wow, this reward is actually much better than I initially thought. It's definitely countless times better than just increasing my cultivation base. Yuan thought to himself after realizing what the bonus reward was. The city of Xian disappeared before Yuan's eyes, and he returned to the stairway to heaven shortly after. "Congratulations on passing the trial, Master. Do you wish to rest? You are allowed an hour to rest," Tian'er said to him. He nodded. "Yes, I will rest this time." Even though his spiritual energy was full, he wanted to allow his soul strength to recover even if it's just slightly. He had a feeling that the God of War's astral arts was going to be crucial for his upcoming trials. "My soul strength is recovering faster than normal out here." Yuan quickly realized this as he sat down to monitor his recovery. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. An hour later, Yuan stood up and proceeded on to the next trial. For the second trial, you must protect the Huang family while they exchange their valuables in the Giant's continent. Oh, is it the same Huang family as the previous trial? So we're going to continue where we left off, huh? Yuan was a little excited to meet with the Huang family again, especially Huang Shaoli, who taught him array symbols. The scenery began changing, and before he realized, he was standing on the ship deck while surrounded by water. "Why are you standing there in a daze, Yuan?" A familiar voice suddenly resounded, causing Yuan to turn around. Standing behind him was a beautiful young lady with a bright smile on her face. Of course, she was Huang Shaoli, who also resembled Chu Liuxiang. "It's been a while, Shaoli," he said with a gentle smile on his face. "What are you talking about? Are you still daydreaming? You should snap out of it since we're about to land. Look over there, that's the Giant's continent." She pointed at the massive island in the distance. However, Yuan wasn't paying attention to the island. Instead, he was focused on Huang Shaoli. Her cultivation hasn't changed. She's still a spirit grandmaster. The same goes for everyone on this boat. It's almost as though ID never left in the first place for them. He thought the stairway to heaven would scale these people to his level since this was a new and more difficult trial, but that didn't seem to be the case. Sometime later, the ship stopped moving once it reached land, and everyone on board started to disembark. "Yuan, are you ready? We have only 14 days to exchange our treasures and come back, or we will be stuck here for a very long time," Huang Shaoli said to him. 14 days? I really hope this isn't how long the trial will take." He sighed inwardly as he disembarked the ship with the Huang family and the other bodyguards. SSS, XSS. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1015. Published at 31st of May 2022 2:18 and 6 seconds p.m. Chapter 1015. 1015. If audio player doesn't work, Press stop then play button again. Chapter 10:15 Mammoth Bloodline. After disembarking from the ship, Yuan followed Huang Shaoli and her family onto the land. Giant's continent. It's not in Tianchengji's memories. Did this place exist before his birth or after his death? He wondered as he followed them. Sometime later, he asked out of curiosity, "Where are we going now?" "We're going to the southern stronghold. It's where most travelers like us go to exchange treasures with giants, so it's quite popular." Huang Shaoli said, "I don't know much about giants. Can you tell me about them?" "Sure." She nodded with enthusiasm and she continued, "Giants are humans with the mammoth bloodline. Their ancestors were ordinary humans that have trained a unique technique called the Great Mammoth Body Refinement that gave them immense strength and a near-indestructible body, but it also increased their body size temporarily. Their ancestors not only reached the peak with this technique, they had even altered it so that the technique would continuously affect their bodies and never deactivate, making them giants permanently. However, because such a feat required them to alter their genes and blood, their descendants would also be born with such blood and genes in their body, making them giants at birth." Yuan was speechless after hearing this information. The speed was too fast, and with a swoosh Wang Xian was pulled into the whirlpool, like a little crucian carp that had been hooked and was violently pulled out of the water. Giants used to be humans before they altered their blood and genes with a technique? He didn't know techniques were even capable of such a feat, which was akin to creating their own bloodline and race. Huang Shaoli continued to speak. The giants created their own family, and after cultivating that family for thousands of years, they moved to an uninhabited land that would soon to be known as the Giants' Continent. Giants nowadays are mostly isolated within the Giants' Continent, so you won't see them outside. In fact, most people live their entire life without meeting one. They're practically phoenixes and dragons. However, since they rarely leave the continent, they mostly rely on travelers like us to provide them with resources and treasures from the outside. It benefits us as well because there are resources and treasures that can only be found within the Giants' Continent. That's pretty neat, I guess. Yuan mumbled. Indeed. If you have any treasures you don't need, you can try to exchange or sell them to the giants. A bittersweet smile appeared on his face after hearing her words. Even if he had plenty of treasures that he could and wanted to trade, he wouldn't actually acquire anything because he was inside the stairway to heaven and nothing there was real. If you dare to fish against him like this, no matter if it's a strange thing on a mobile phone or that ferocious giant fish, you'll have to pay the price. Although I can learn techniques in the stairway to heaven, that is only possible because they only need to be memorized. However, treasures don't work that way. It's impossible for me to acquire real treasures during trials. How unfortunate. He sighed inwardly, thinking how nice it would be if he could actually acquire something from the trial. Suddenly, the head of the bodyguards, Dong Zhou, shouted, "We have company." Yuan panicked a little when he heard Dong Zhou's voice because he didn't sense anything with his divine sense that he's kept active this whole time. However, sure enough, something appeared before them a few seconds later, and it was a massive bird that was so big that it could easily lift an entire building with one of its claws. Seeing this massive bird that came out of thin air, Yuan prepared to attack it, but then he realized its cultivation base was in the Spirit Emperor realm. Spirit Emperor magical beast. This is my first time fighting an opponent of this level. He cried inwardly. Yuan, it's coming. Huang Shaoli shouted. A fizzy is mocking him. Yuan immediately snapped out of his daze and confronted this massive bird in the sky right as it tried to dive down. Ha! He enveloped the Empyrean overlord with sword chi before sending it in the magical beast's way. Caw! The bird released a painful scream when it lost one of its claws to Yuan, who was surprised because had expected to kill the bird with that strike. And however, before he could get another strike on the bird, it turned around and flew away, leaving him speechless. It ran away? He muttered in a dumbfounded voice. Are you okay, Yuan? Huang Shaoli approached him afterward. Then, it was noisy and motionless. Instead of reviving here, it chose to disguise it. Yes, I am fine. But that magical beast was stronger than I anticipated. After all, under normal circumstances, his attack just now would have killed even a Spirit Emperor with ease. I forgot to mention this, but giants are not the only entity on this continent with the mammoth bloodline. The magical beasts on this continent also have it, she said to him. What? How is that even possible? I thought the giants' ancestors only managed to achieve such a feat through a technique. There's no way ordinary magical beasts could possibly comprehend techniques, much less master them. You're right, but the magical beasts did not acquire the mammoth bloodline through techniques. They acquired it through consuming the giants. I mentioned that the technique is never-ending, right? This is still true even when the giants die, so when a magical beast consumes their flesh and blood, they also acquire the power of giants. Heavens, Yuan was speechless by this information. Since the magical beasts in the giants' continent also had the mammoth bloodline coursing through their veins, they were much stronger than ordinary magical beasts from the outside. If one's piece of sword energy can't solve the problem, then take a few more pieces. Wang Xian is going to kill it. It seems we have underestimated the strength of this place. We're not strong enough to do our job as bodyguards, so we'll have to rely on you, Yuan. Dong Zhou approached him and said. Sure. He sighed, silently wondering to himself why the stairway to heaven didn't make the bodyguards at least spirit kings so that they wouldn't be completely useless. After all, in their current state, they were nothing but a burden to him. Since you're all too weak to traverse this land, why don't you just return to the ship and wait for us to return? Yuan said to him a moment later. We cannot do that. Even if we're not strong enough to fight the entities on this land, we must still do our jobs as bodyguards and accompany the Huang family even if we die in the process. Dong Zhou exclaimed in a prideful voice. Yuan felt like facepalming. If you cannot do your duties as a bodyguard, can you still be considered as one? He cried inwardly. Yuan eventually stopped thinking about it since it was most likely done by the stairway to heaven to make things more difficult for him. Just so you know, I am here to protect the Huang family, so if you get in any trouble, don't worry, we won't drag you down. Dong Zhou said with a confident smile. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. Yeah. I somehow doubt that. He shook his head. After walking for about half an hour without encountering any magical beasts, Huang Shaoli pointed at the city walls in the distance and said in an excited voice, We're almost there. I can see the southern stronghold. They quickened their moving speed after seeing the city. However, as they got closer, Dong Zhou suddenly stopped and shouted, We're surrounded. Yuan looked around and sure enough, a pack of massive birds quickly surrounded them, and amongst these magical beasts was one with an injured claw, the same one had fought. So you ran away to call your friends, huh? Yuan couldn't help but chuckle at its efforts. After a quick glance, he counted 9 of these birds, and they all emitted the aura of a spirit emperor. I won't be able to fight all of them at once and protect the Huang family at the same time with my ordinary techniques. I will have to use the God of War's astral arts. He sighed inwardly, feeling a little embarrassed to use his trump card so early on in the trial. Although he could kill these magical beasts even without the God of War's astral arts, he wouldn't be able to protect the Huang family, and his priority was to keep all of them alive for the bonus reward. After taking a deep breath, Yuan used the God of War's astral arts. The Huang family and the bodyguards were shocked speechless after witnessing the massive golden figure. As for the birds, they started making weird noises, almost as though they were panicking. Die. Not wanting to waste his soul strength too much, Yuan immediately attacked the birds with a 360 sword swing, killing all of them at once. However, the attack was so powerful that it created a powerful gust of wind that swept in all directions. In fact, the southern stronghold thought they were under attack when they saw the golden figure that looked massive even though they were quite far away from Yuan's location. Yuan quickly deactivated the technique after killing the magical beasts. Are you okay? Huang Shaoli asked him in a worried voice after seeing his poor condition. Yes, I am fine. That technique uses up a lot of soul strength, so I am a little tired, mentally. Give me a few minutes to recover. All right. They nodded. A few minutes later, once Yuan was feeling better, they continued their journey to the southern stronghold, unaware of the chaos that was occurring within the city due to Yuan's God of War's astral arts. After another hour of traveling, they arrived at the entrance of the city. So that's a giant, huh? Yuan was amazed when he saw the 2 giants guarding the entrance to the city, both of them being around 10 meters tall with a broad frame and incredible muscles that looked like they could crush an entire mountain. Besides their massive size, they looked just like humans. I guess it's true that their ancestors were originally normal humans. Yuan thought to himself as they approached these giants. And chapters for CO will be longer starting June. Also, check out Magic System in a Parallel World while you wait for the next chapter. It has long chapters just like this one. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1016. Published at 1st of June 2022 2:18 and 20 seconds p.m. Chapter 1016. 1016. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1016. Serious accusations. As they got closer to the giants, Yuan could feel their gaze on him, and sure enough, when he looked at them, their eyes were glaring directly at him for some reason. Yuan wanted to ignore them, but when they got close enough to the entrance of the city, the giants suddenly stepped in front of the entrance, blocking their path. The Huang family were quite baffled by their actions. Unlike cities outside the giants' continent, the southern stronghold did not require for them to pay any entrance fees, nor did they care about your background, so there was literally no reason why they should be blocking the entrance. Is there something wrong, seniors? Huang Qin, Huang Shaoli's father, asked the guard in a polite tone. The guards pointed at Yuan and asked, "Who are you? What is your purpose?" Yuan raised an eyebrow and said in a calm voice, "I am Yuan and I am their bodyguard." The guards turned to look at Huang Qin for confirmation. "That's right. He's a bodyguard that I hired to protect my family. It was because of him that we, and everyone else on the ship, were able to survive a flying leviathan and arrive at the giant's continent safely." Huang Qin nodded. "You defeated a flying leviathan?" The guards appeared to be surprised after learning about his feats. The two of them exchanged looks with each other for a moment before stepping out of the way. "Thank you, seniors." Huang Qin bowed to them before they started moving again, entering the southern stronghold shortly after. "What was that about?" Yuan asked them. "I don't know, but giants respect and prioritize one's strength above all else." Huang Qin shook his head. Once they entered the city, Yuan was dumbfounded by the scenery inside. All of the buildings in this place were massive and about 10 times larger than the buildings that he was used to seeing, not to mention the amount of giants walking around the city, making him feel really tiny in this place, just like an ant. Furthermore, he also noticed that the giants in this place really varied in terms of their size. Some of them were only as tall as 4 meters while there were giants as tall as 15 meters. "You're probably wondering about their sizes, right?" Huang Shaoli suddenly said to him. "You're right. I thought all giants were as big as the guards outside, but that doesn't seem to be the case." He nodded. "It depends on the strength of their mammoth bloodline. The purer and stronger their bloodline, the bigger they will turn out to be. In the giant's continent, a giant's size is akin to a cultivator's innate talent, so those with a smaller body are considered trash while those with a large body are considered geniuses," she explained. "If you're surprised now, just wait until you see giants that are as big as a mountain." Yuan's eyes widened. As big as a mountain? No wonder why they refuse to leave the giant's continent. They won't be able to do anything outside with such huge bodies. Sometime later, they went to a hotel to settle down. Although most of the hotels there were built specifically for giants, there were also hotels specifically built for humans like them. Once inside the hotel, Huang Qin gathered everyone there and said, "We will rest today, but starting tomorrow, I will be looking to exchange our treasures with the giants. I will leave 2 of you here to guard my family while the rest will follow me." Yuan frowned upon hearing his words. "I won't be able to protect all of them if we split into 2 groups. Perhaps I should convince them to go together, but they have a child." He glanced at the 7-year-old boy beside his mother. Maybe it would actually be safer to leave him and the mother here. He sighed inwardly. With so many giants walking outside, things could get ugly really fast if they take such a small child outside. After all, he was so tiny compared to some of the giants that they could easily step on him by accident and not even realize it. Of course, this also applied to the mother, who had the lowest cultivation base besides the child who was still too young to cultivate. However, there was another issue: the bodyguards. He wasn't confident in their abilities at all. In fact, they will probably be useless since this trial was countless times more difficult than the last trial, yet their strength remained the same as the last trial. In other words, they were nothing more than burdens. Furthermore, these guys. Yuan narrowed his eyes at the bodyguards, his thoughts unknown. After Huang Qin finished everything he had to say, Yuan approached Huang Shaoli with a smile and said to her in a low voice, "Excuse me, Shaoli. Do you mind if I borrow some of your time? I would like to speak to you in private." "Sure." She nodded in a dazed manner, feeling a little nervous about the aura around him. "Follow me." Yuan nodded and followed her into another room. Once she locked the door, she asked him, "So what do you want to talk about? Did something happen? You seem a little more serious than usual." "Yes. It's about..." Yuan proceeded to tell her what's been on his mind. Huang Shaoli's eyes widened more and more with shock as she listened to his words. "Are you sure about that? Those are some serious accusations," she exclaimed in a low voice. He nodded with a serious frown. "I didn't notice it before because I was still inexperienced. However, I am certain about my claims. I don't mind dealing with it right now, but I can tell that you're doubtful, so I am going to prove it to you first." "How are you going to do that?" Yuan proceeded to tell her about his plans. "Awful. Calm, seriously? You want me to? Do you trust me? Yuan suddenly asked her with a serious expression. I risked my life to defend the ship and your Huang family. I wouldn't do anything to hurt you or your family, I promise. Oh, of course I trust you. Huang Xiaoli's face quickly flushed with redness when she recalled what she tried to do with him right before the flying Leviathan's attack. A moment later, she took a deep breath and nodded with a serious expression. All right, let's do it. Thank you. You won't regret it, I promise. Yuan smiled. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. The two of them left the room after talking for several more minutes. Is everything okay, Yuan? Huang Qin approached him shortly after he left the room with Huang Xiaoli. Father, I need to speak with you. Mother, you too. Huang Xiaoli suddenly said to them. Huang Qin looked at them with raised eyebrows, but he didn't ask any questions and followed Huang Xiaoli to another room. Once the Huang family was gone, the other guards approached Yuan and asked him, What happened? Is everything okay? The young lady looked very annoyed. I hope you didn't try to confess your love for her just now. You're just a bodyguard. Know your place. The female bodyguard said to him with a mocking gaze. Yuan didn't take her insults to heart and even chuckled at it. Don't worry, it's nothing like that. However, it's true that something did happen. The guards swallowed nervously as they waited for him to speak. I would tell you, but I think it would be for the best if the Huang family told you. It's their business after all. He shrugged, not willingly to tell them anything. Come on. Don't be like that. Qin Kai, who was the bulky bodyguard that guarded the Huang family's room with him while they were still sailing, said, I don't want to lose my job, so I will have to refrain from it. Whatever. Keep your stupid little secret. The other bodyguards shook their heads and stopped bothering him. Sometime later, the Huang family finished their little meeting and came out of the room, but Huang Qin and his wife looked really upset for some reason. This made the guards really nervous and they all wondered inwardly about the issue. Huang Qin gathered the bodyguards again and said, There will be some changes in our plans. I will start exchanging my treasures today, so I want 2 people to follow me. He looked at Yuan and his head bodyguard Dong Zhou. Yuan and Dong Zhou, you'll be coming with me. Xiaoli, you'll also come with me. The rest of you will stay behind to protect my wife and son. Do not let anyone besides us enter this place no matter what. Yes. They all said. Before they left, Huang Qin said to his wife in a low voice, Since we have too many treasures, I will leave half of it with you. If anything happens to us, I want you to take the treasures and go home. Don't say something so ominous. As long as you have Yuan with you, he'll keep you safe. She said with a smile. Yuan left the hotel with his group shortly after. Once they were outside, Dong Zhou couldn't help but ask, Sorry if I am being noisy, but what was that about? I will tell you about it in a bit, Huang Qin said. Dong Zhou has never seen Huang Qin so serious before, making him worried as well. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1017. Published at 1st of June 2022, 2:18 and 19 seconds p.m. Chapter 1017. 1017. If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1017. The gold and money bandits. Shortly after Yuan's group left to exchange treasures, the bodyguards that had remained at the hotel watched from the windows as Yuan and the others disappeared from the scene. Those nuisances have finally left. The female bodyguard sneered. Should we do it now? This is the best time. That little bastard with too much power for someone at his age and level is gone, as well as the array master and even Huang Chen and his daughter. Nobody here can stop us now, said one of the male bodyguards. I don't know. This seems a little too easy. Not to mention whatever just happened. Something about all of this doesn't sit right with me, said a different bodyguard. Who cares? We can kill the woman and the kid and rob them of all of their treasures long before they will be able to do anything about it. The female bodyguard showed a grim smile on her face. I say we should do it as well. I doubt there will be another chance like this. What about that other bodyguard? He might cause us some trouble. I can handle him, said the female bodyguard with a suggestive expression on her face. In the end, these bodyguards decided to finally execute their plan by robbing the Huang family. These 3 bodyguards actually knew each other before they got hired by the Huang family, as they all belonged to a renowned gang that was infamous for their vicious deeds and brutal nature. The Gold and Money Bandits, they were a group of lawless cultivators that would dare to rob and kill even mortals, something only evil cultivators would do. In fact, there were even more of these bandits at the bodyguard recruitment, but most of them had been disqualified and only these 3 had managed to pass. They had planned on robbing the Huang family when they were still at sea, but Yuan did not give them any chance, and when they saw how powerful he actually was, they decided to delay their plans until they could find an opportunity to rob the Huang family. Now that they have finally encountered that opportunity, they were enticed to finally execute their plans and rob the Huang family. Meanwhile, a few minutes after they left the hotel, Huang Qin revealed the whole situation to Dong Zhou, who had been kept in the dark until now. What? Those bodyguards harbor ill intentions. Are you sure this is accurate information? Dong Zhou doubted this information, mostly because he didn't want to believe that he had accidentally recruited bandits to be their bodyguards, as he could be held responsible for this blunder. It's true. I wasn't certain at first, but after watching them for some time, I can say with certainty that they are bandits. Their bodies reeked of blood and their eyes are filled with greed. Do you remember when we were attacked in the ship? I believe they were working together since they all gave off the same aura. And Yuan wouldn't lie to us. He risked his life fighting the flying Leviathan too. Huang Shaoli backed him up. Dong Zhou frowned and said, if what you say is true, then isn't it incredibly dangerous and reckless to leave the madam and the young master alone with them? We're basically giving them to those bastards on a silver platter. If we didn't leave, they would not act. I also wanted to prove to all of you that they are not what they seem. Don't worry, I won't let them touch even a hair on the Huang family. What the hell can you do when you're here with us? This is madness. Dong Zhou exclaimed. I trust him. Huang Qin suddenly said. Are you serious, Master Huang? What if he's only doing this to mislead us? What if he's actually working with those bandits? Yuan smiled after hearing his words and said in a calm voice, do you really think I need to make such an elaborate plan just to rob the Huang family? Have you not seen what I am capable of? If I want to rob you guys, I wouldn't need to pretend to be a bodyguard and wait until you lower your guard, much less come all the way out here and risk my life fighting the flying Leviathan. If I truly wanted to rob you guys, I would have done so before we boarded the ship, and none of you would have been able to stop me. Dong Zhou swallowed nervously when he called how Yuan had killed multiple spirit emperors with a single strike. Sorry? I was just talking out of my ass just now. Dong Zhou sighed out loud. Yuan suddenly turned around and looked at the direction of the hotel. Let's return. They're finally moving, he said to them. Back at the hotel, the female bandit approached Qin Kai and started flirting with him. I have been wanting to speak with you for a while now, but I didn't get any chance. You know, I love men with muscles, and when I first saw you, I knew right away that I wanted you. You're the reason I even decided to become a bodyguard for the Huang family. Qin Kai swallowed nervously after hearing her words. Seriously? The female bandit was actually quite attractive, and Qin Kai had little to no experience when it comes to women, making him an easy target. Let's go elsewhere to talk, shall we? She winked at him. Sure. Qin Kai followed her to another room. Panda novel. Once the other 2 bandits saw this, they smiled and turned their focus to the room with the mother and wife. Let's go. The 2 of them quietly approached the room. Once they were close enough, one of them tried to open the door in a sneaky manner. When the bandit couldn't feel any resistance from the door, the smile on his face widened. Ready? Of course. The bandit immediately opened the door, and the 2 of them entered the room before closing it again. What are you 2 doing in here? I don't remember calling either of you. The mother said to them with a frown on her face. Don't worry, we'll leave you alone once we take all of your treasures and kill you, said one of the bandits. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. You what? The gold and money bandits, have you heard of us? The mother's eyes widened with shock after hearing that name. I see. So you became our bodyguards just to steal from us, huh? We should have been more diligent when recruiting bodyguards, but we were in a rush. Then you can only blame yourself. I would love to enjoy my time with you before killing you, but we're short on time, so I am just going to kill you. They retrieved their weapons. However, the mother managed to calm down and she even smiled. What a pity. A pity indeed. One of the bandits suddenly rushed forward while swinging his dagger, but before he could reach the mother, he felt a burst of pain in his chest, forcing him to look down. What the fuck? He muttered in a dumbfounded voice when he saw that a hole had mysteriously appeared in his chest. Thud. The bandit fell to the floor and died before he could even realize what had happened to him. The other bandit stood there with a dazed look on his face as his eyes stared at his companion's lifeless body on the floor. Despite seeing everything that had just happened, he still couldn't comprehend the situation. The door behind him suddenly opened, and a figure calmly walked into the room. Are you okay, Madame Huang? Yuan asked her with a calm smile on his face. Why you are? How in heaven's name? The bandit was shocked when he saw Yuan standing right beside him. Did you really think that I wouldn't notice the way you idiots looked at the Huang family? When you look at them, you only see money and profit, and it reminds me of a certain miserable couple. Yuan sneered in a cold voice. Senior Huang, Shaoli, what do you think? Is this enough proof? He asked them, who were standing right behind the bandit with deep frowns on their faces. Yes, this is more than enough proof. Thank you very much, Yuan. You have saved our family yet again. Wang Qin said. It was at this moment the female bandit and Qin Kai came out of their room after hearing the commotion. What is happening? Qin Kai exclaimed with a shocked look on his face when he saw the incomprehensible situation. As for the female bandit, she was simply speechless. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1018. Published at 2nd of June 2022 5:30 and 19 seconds p.m. Chapter 1018. 1018 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1018. I will accept your challenge. Huang Qin frowned when he saw the female bandit and Qin Kai. Where the hell have you two been? My family was being attacked and you're screwing each other in another room? Why did I even hire you? What? Attacked? By whom? Qin Kai was truly puzzled as he was not part of the gold and money bandits. Furthermore, everything had happened so fast that he was still comprehending the situation. Why don't you take a look for yourself? Huang Shaoli pointed into the room with Yuan and the bandits. Qin Kai swallowed nervously and approached the room. His eyes widened with shock when he saw the scene inside. One of the bodyguards was dead with a hole in his chest and the other was frozen in place with a terrified expression on his face. What is the meaning of this? Qin Kai asked. These two are bandits from the gold and money bandits. They became a bodyguard just to rob the Huang family. Yuan calmly explained the situation to him. The gold and money bandits? Qin Kai immediately recognized their name. As someone who often works as a bodyguard, he has encountered these bandits on multiple occasions, and they were all vicious people with no morals. Murder, robbery, corruption, rape. Nothing was off the table for these bandits even if mortals were involved, hence why they were so hated and so feared. The female bandit also took a look inside the room. Her heart throbbed so fast and hard from fear that it began hurting. Fortunately, they didn't catch me in the act, so they don't know that I am with them just yet. But if they ask that bastard, he will surely give me away. She calmed down slightly after realizing this, and she began plotting to kill her companion before he could speak. However, with Yuan in the room, she didn't dare to move just yet. So tell me, what were the two of you doing while my family was attacked? Are you also part of the gold and money bandits? Huang Qin narrowed his eyes at Qin Kai and the female bandit. What? Hell no. There's no way I am with those bastards. That's right. We were in the other room because I wanted to make love to him. I didn't know they were bandits. I swear. The female bandit said. The other bandit cursed inwardly after hearing her companion's words. That fucking bitch. She's the whole reason we're in this mess. If she didn't make the suggestion to rob the Huang family, we wouldn't be here. And now she wants to act innocent while the two of us die. After taking a deep breath, the male bandit exclaimed, That bitch is lying. She's with us. She was the one who suggested we rob you guys too. The female bandit gritted her teeth in anger, but she wasn't willing to give up just yet. That's preposterous. He's only saying that because he's jealous I chose Qin Kai over him. He's been eyeing me since the beginning too. She's lying. Her real name is Zhou Nuing, and she has a high position within the gold and money bandits. The reason she went to make love with Qin Kai was so that she could distract him while we robbed the Huang family. Is that so? What do you have to say to these accusations, Zhou Nuing? Huang Qin glared at her with killing intent within his gaze. Zhou Nuing swallowed nervously. She knew that she was done for and that there was no way for her to talk herself out of this situation. Therefore she decided to escape. Watch out. He's going to attack. Zhou Nuing suddenly shouted while pointing at her companion. Everyone there subconsciously turned to look. This is my chance. Zhou Nuing suddenly retrieved 2 smoke bombs and smashed them on the floor, instantly filling the room with smoke that also contained some kind of material that weakened the spiritual energy in the area and even blocked Yuan's divine sense. She proceeded to rush towards the window, but since the entire place was filled with smoke, she could only rely on her memories. Once she could feel the window, she smashed right through it with her body and escaped the hotel. Yuan wanted to chase after her, but he didn't want to leave the Huang family behind, and he had to make sure the other bandit didn't try to do anything funny. Is everyone okay? Huang Xiaoli's voice resounded shortly after. Yes, I am okay. Me too. Everyone there confirmed their safety. Once the smoke finally cleared, Yuan asked, what should we do with him? I can kill him here if you want. I want all of his information before we kill him. Dong Zhou, make him talk. Yes. Dong Zhou proceeded to drag the bandit to another room, where he would torture the bandit for all of his information. Meanwhile, Huang Chen went to speak with the hotel managers to let them know of the situation. The servants in the hotel cleaned up the mess and the corpse without much trouble. Once everything was done, Huang Chen thanked Yuan for his efforts. Thank you, Yuan. If it hadn't been for your sharp eyes, our Huang family would have ended in a tragedy. I will definitely reward you handsomely at the end of our trip. Yuan shook his head and said with a smile, I am only doing my job as a bodyguard. What should we do about the one who ran away? Dong Zhou asked. I don't want to waste time and resources looking for her in this vast place. She could be anywhere by now. However, if we run into her again, immediately kill her. Huang Chen said. Yes. What should we do now? We're down to 3 bodyguards. Madame Huang asked sometime later. Dong Zhou and Qin Kai can stay here and protect you here. Since we have taken care of the bandit situation, I doubt anyone else would try to attack you guys. The one who escaped won't dare to return either. I can protect Senior Huang by myself when he goes outside. Yuan said. I will also pay the hotel extra for their security service. Huang Chen said. What about me? I also want to go with you guys. Huang Xiaoli suddenly asked. Only if you promise to not cause any trouble. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. What? Since when have I caused any troubles? Always. Huang Chen smiled. Sometime later, Huang Xiaoli approached Yuan and asked him, Want to look around the city with me? I have already asked my father for permission. He turned to look at Huang Chen, who nodded his head with a bittersweet smile on his face. All right, let's look around. Please take care of my daughter, Yuan. Huang Chen said to him before they left the hotel and started wandering the city. What do you think about the Giant's continent so far? Huang Xiaoli asked him as they looked around. It's very unique, that's for sure. He said. Not just the environment, but even the people are vastly different from each other. Honestly, it feels like I am in a dream. Huang Xiaoli chuckled and spoke. That's what I felt during my first visit to this place. However, while it's nice to visit this place, I wouldn't want to live here for too long. It's simply too dangerous for human cultivators, and only powerful cultivators would dare to wander outside the cities. Sometime later, the two of them stopped when they noticed a group of giants surrounding what appeared to be a massive platform. What are they doing? Yuan asked when he saw this. There must be a match going on right now, she said. A match? In the middle of the city? Yes. One thing you should know about giants is that they love to fight, so there are platforms placed all around the city. Yuan suddenly recalled the ancestral dragon temple in the ancient dragon city. The two of them approached the crowd to get a closer look at the match. Once they were close enough, they could see 2 giants fighting each other with their bare fists. No weapon or armor could be seen. The 2 giants threw fists at each other like their lives depended on it, and every time their fist struck its target, a weak ripple would sweep the place. Wow! What tremendous strength! Yuan thought to himself as he watched the giants plummet each other until one of them could no longer stand. Once the match ended, the winner shouted, Who also wants to experience my strength? I welcome all challengers. The winner will receive a divine rank body refining technique. Yuan raised an eyebrow after hearing the giant's words. A divine rank body refining technique? That sounds like something that could benefit me, he thought. Don't tell me you're thinking about fighting him, Huang Xiaoli suddenly said, almost as though she could see his thoughts. I wouldn't suggest it. You're not allowed to use any offensive techniques or treasures, so you can only fight him with your body. That giant must also be hiding his strength. After all, there's no way he would be willing to give away a divine rank technique so easily. Yuan smiled and said, It's fine. My body is sturdier than it looks. Even if I lose, I want to see for myself just how strong giants are. He then jumped onto the stage and said out loud, I will take on your challenge. The giants were stunned when a tiny human appeared on the stage, and after a moment of silence, they all burst out laughing. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: You can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1019. Published at 2nd of June 2022 5:30 and 18 seconds p.m. Chapter 1019. 1019 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1019. The prowess of a giant. You, a mere human, wishes to challenge me, a giant, to a match of strength. Wow. This is the funniest joke I have heard all week long. The 11 meters tall giant laughed out loud after being challenged by Yuan, his laughter causing the air to tremble. Why not? It's not our size that matters but our strength, right? Yuan responded with a calm smile on his face. Is this your first time to the giant's continent, little guy? Have you ever fought a giant before? Giants are at the top when it comes to natural strength. No human has ever beaten a giant when it comes to pure strength. I'm afraid that I might accidentally kill you if we fought. However, if you're still willing to take such a risk, then I will gladly be your opponent. I am willing to take such a risk. Yuan nodded with confidence. Good. Then allow me to tell you some rules. The giant said. And he continued, first of all, no weapons or treasures of any kind are allowed. If you have any on you right now, put them away. Yuan nodded and stored the invisible dragon cloak into his dragon spatial ring. You are not allowed to use any offensive techniques. However, defensive techniques are allowed. The third rule is that you are not allowed to dodge. You will have to endure every blow with your body. The same goes for me. Final rule, the first one to give up or fall unconscious will lose. Now that you know the rules, do you still wish to continue? I will give you one last chance to walk away, human brat. Yuan smiled and said, it feels weird that you're addressing me in a way that makes it seem as though you're not human. I get it. Your ancestors transformed your blood through a godly technique, but it's not like you're no longer human. Unlike a demon, you still look human to me. The place turned silent after Yuan's little speech. Oh no. That idiot. Huang Shaoli cried inwardly after sensing the change in the atmosphere. Unbeknownst to Yuan, it was an unspoken rule within the giant's continent that you're not supposed to call giants humans. How dare you? How dare you call me a human? The giant on the stage suddenly roared with a red face. I take back what I just said. You're not allowed to quit anymore. We're going to fight to death now. He roared, causing the air to tremble. The giants watching the match began shouting like a group of warriors before a big battle, causing the ground and buildings there to shake violently. Yuan was a little surprised by the giants' reaction. They're offended because I call them humans? What a blunder. Now I have a target on my back, he sighed inwardly after realizing the situation. Are you ready to fight? The giant asked him some time later. Yes, I am ready. He nodded. Then here I come. The giant wasted no time throwing his first punch, and a fist the size of a large boulder flew at Yuan's small figure in comparison. Although he was unable to dodge the attack, the giant didn't say anything about not being able to strike back, so he also threw his own punch, putting all of his strength behind it. The moment their fists connected with each other, a powerful ripple swept the scene, surprising everyone there. Though what shocked them even more was the fact that Yuan, a mere human, was not only able to survive the giant's attack but even stop it. However, it was not perfect. Yuan had been pushed back several steps while the giant remained unmoving like a mountain. Looks like I have underestimated the strength of giants. Yuan thought to himself after feeling a numbing sensation in not only his fist but the rest of his arm as well. Furthermore, he's already used all of his strength in that last exchange, yet he couldn't push back the giant even slightly. The chances of him winning this match in his current state was slim to none. Despite that, Yuan didn't give up and he was even smiling. It's been a while since I have faced such a strong opponent, an opponent that I cannot defeat easily. This is great. He laughed inwardly. The giant was also quite surprised when Yuan managed to stop his fist. Even though his attack seemed ordinary and ineffective, the spot he struck felt like it had been stabbed with a needle and actually hurts like hell. Where did such a formidable human come from? He cried inwardly but acted completely tranquil outside. I don't think I have heard your name yet. I'm known as Sorgi. The giant suddenly introduced himself as Sorgi. My name is Yuan. Good. Now let's continue our fight. Sorgi laughed as he threw his fist at Yuan for a second time. Ha. Free web and ovil. Just like their last confrontation, Yuan blocked Sorgi's first with his own, but he was forced several steps back again. Let's see how long you can keep this up. Sorgi roared as he threw the third strike without giving Yuan any time to rest, then a fourth and a fifth. Huang Shaoli and the other giants watched with their mouths wide open, not daring to believe their eyes. Do you think he's cheating? One of the giants there suddenly threw out this thought. He's definitely cheating. There's no way a human like him could rival a giant in raw strength. He must be hiding a treasure somewhere in his body. When the giant started accusing Yuan of secretly using a treasure, the match stopped temporarily. You think I am cheating? Yuan looked at the crowd of giants with his eyebrows raised slightly. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. Of course. Otherwise, how else can you hold your own against a giant? Not even body refiners are capable of such a feat. The giants responded. Is that so? Yuan mumbled. He turned to look at Sorgi and asked him, what about you? Do you think I am cheating? Sorgi frowned after hearing this question. Although he didn't want to accuse Yuan of cheating, his pride as a giant didn't think it was possible for a human to match him. I see. Even though Sorgi hasn't said a word yet, Yuan already knew the answer by looking at the expression on his face. If you think I am cheating, then I don't mind letting you search my body. I will even hand over my clothes and spatial rings to my friend during the match. What do you think? He suggested. There's no need to search your body. Sorgi responded after a moment of silence. And he continued, but you can leave your clothes and spatial ring with your friend. If you can prove to everyone here that you're not cheating, I will compensate you for this misunderstanding. Very well. Yuan nodded. He proceeded to remove his clothes until he was wearing nothing but his underwear, revealing to everyone there his sweaty but refined body. Even Sorgi was surprised when he saw Yuan's body that looked like it had been carefully sculpted by the heavens itself. Shaoli, can you hold these for me for a bit? Yuan asked her, who was blushing from ear to ear after seeing his half-naked body. After handing Huang Shaoli his clothes and spatial rings, Yuan returned to the stage with only his underwear. I am ready, he said with a cold expression on his face. Sorgi swallowed nervously, and he could feel an uneasy feeling welling up inside his guts. The two of them continued to throw fists at each other shortly after. He's gotten even stronger than before. How is this possible? Sorgi was shocked inwardly after sensing the immense force behind Yuan's first strike after the brief break. However, that was not the end of his shock, as Sorgi could feel Yuan's attacks continuously growing stronger with every strike. As time passed and the number of strikes they threw at each other increased, Yuan's eyes started turning golden, and his body began emanating an unfathomable aura that made it seem as though an unparalleled entity had descended from the heavens. Soon even, Yuan's body was enveloped by a golden aura that made him feel invincible, like he was an unrivaled god. When Sorgi and the spectators saw this, they all subconsciously swallowed nervously. What kind of technique is he using? I have a really bad feeling about this. Sorgi cried inwardly as he stared at Yuan's shimmering figure. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1020? Published at 6th of June 2022 2:09 and 11 seconds p.m. Chapter 1020. 1020 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1020 Golden Mountain Body Refinement. I don't know what kind of trick you're using, but you won't be able to defeat me. Sorgi roared as he used his own body refining technique, increasing his prowess by many folds, and his body began pulsating with energy so powerful it became visible to one's eyes. However, Yuan remained calm, his gaze as tranquil as a still lake. Hiya! Sorgi threw his most powerful strike yet, causing the air to tremble. Ha! Yuan also threw his own fist, his aura skyrocketing right before it collided with Sorgi's fist. Boom! The entire city shook as a massive ripple swept the city, and one of them flew off the stage and into many buildings before stopping. The giants were shocked and speechless after seeing the results. As Sorgi lost to a human, one of them exclaimed, his eyes filled with disbelief. Impossible. What happened just now? How can a mere human have such prowess with such a tiny body? This doesn't make any sense. After sending Sorgi flying off the stage, Yuan closed his eyes and took a deep breath, and he could feel the invincible feeling in his body quickly dissipating. He looked at his hands with a wondering gaze. Just on Earth was that strength? I experienced it during my fight with Li Jinsi before. If only I can control this power. He sighed inwardly. Sometime later, Sorgi returned to the stage with a blooded arm. Are you okay? Yuan asked him, feeling a little bad about injuring him to such an extent. My muscles are torn and my entire arm is broken, but I will be fine after some medicine. Sorgi said with a calm smile on his face. Giants are tough, I'll give you that. Yuan smiled back. Yuan, right? Here is your reward. Sorgi handed him a scroll with his other hand. Thank you. After accepting the scroll, Yuan immediately opened it and memorized the content. Relax, I wouldn't scam you with a fake technique before so many people. Sorgi misunderstood his actions. By the way, there will be a major tournament next month that is held by the royal family. It's going to be something like our match just now, and I think you'll do great in it. Perhaps you might even win the grand prize, which is a mythic rank body refining technique. Sorgi suddenly said. What? A mythic rank body refining technique? Yuan's eyes widened with surprise. However, as much as he wanted to participate in the tournament, he will have to leave the Giants continent with the Huang family in 14 days. I would love to participate, but unfortunately my time here is limited, so I won't be able to participate. That's a pity. I wanted to see how you would fare against the best warriors in the Giants continent. Sorgi shook his head. Sometime later, Yuan retrieved his clothes and spatial rings from Huang Shaoli, who was staring at him with admiration. Yuan, you totally overwhelmed that giant. I still can't believe it. How do you train your body? It's nothing fancy. I just temper my body with medicine. He calmly said. Those must have been some expensive treasure since you were able to defeat a giant using your raw strength. No, my strength is actually weaker than Sorgi. Something else allowed me to defeat him. He shook his head. Huh? What? I don't know. I'm also trying to figure it out. Let's continue our tour for a little more before we head back to the hotel. Huang Shaoli suggested. Sure. Meanwhile, somewhere in the Giants continent, a giant that had been sitting on a throne as large as a mountain slowly opened his eyes, his gaze filled with dominance. That aura just now. The giant slowly stood up and turned to face the direction of the southern stronghold. Have you finally returned, my old friend? I have been waiting for this day ever since I perfected the great mammoth body refinement. I will not lose this time. This giant suddenly bent his knees in a way that looked like he was prepared to jump, and the next moment he jumped, soaring towards the southern stronghold faster than a rocket. About an hour after Yuan fought with Sorgi, he returned to the hotel with Huang Shaoli. Father. Mother. You will not believe what happened when we were outside. Yuan fought with a giant and won. Huang Shaoli bragged about his match with Sorgi the moment she returned home. What? He fought a giant. What happened? Are you guys okay? Huang Qin misunderstood the situation and panicked. After all, if a human picked a fight with a giant while they were in this place, nobody would be able to save them if the giants decided to destroy them. It's fine, father. It wasn't a fight. It was a legit match. Yuan even won a divine rank technique from it. Huang Shaoli cleared up the misunderstanding. Seriously? Yuan, you're truly full of surprises. It's nothing much, he said with a smile. Anyways, I'm going to study this new technique that I acquired. If you need me, don't hesitate to interrupt me. He said to them before going into another room. Sometime later. You have learned Golden Mountain Body Refinement. Golden Mountain Body Refinement. Rank, Divine, Mastery Level 1. Description. Strengthens your body to become even tougher than that of a mountain made of pure gold. After learning the technique, Yuan stood up and tried it. Golden Mountain Body Refinement. After activating the technique, Yuan could see a thin layer of golden light protecting his body, and he could also feel his body getting stronger. In order to train body refinement techniques, I will need people to hit me while I am using the technique. He went to grab Huang Shaoli a moment later. What happened to the technique? She asked him. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. I have already learned it, he calmly said. Why you what? There's no way you learned a divine rank technique in less than an hour. She exclaimed. Yuan didn't say anything and decided to prove it by showing her the technique. You actually managed to learn it in under an hour? Now that I think about it, you're also a quick learner when it comes to array symbols. She muttered in a dazed voice after seeing the golden glow protecting his body. I want you to hit me as hard as you can. Yuan suddenly said to her. Sure. Huang Shaoli did not hesitate and prepared to throw her fist at him. However, he quickly stopped her and said, Hold it. Why are you using your hand? Use a weapon instead. You're going to break your hand like that. What? Did I hear right? You want me to strike you with a weapon? She looked at him with wide eyes. Don't worry, I will be fine. Even if I am not fine, I won't blame you for it. He said with a smile. That doesn't make me feel any better, but whatever. I trust you. Huang Shaoli proceeded to retrieve a heaven-grade sword and slashed it at Yuan with all of her cultivation behind it. Ding. The sword bounced off Yuan's body the moment it touched the golden layer. This isn't too bad. I don't have my invisible dragon cloak on right now, so I was expecting to bleed a little. Yuan said after seeing the results. You were expecting to bleed? Huang Shaoli's jaw dropped a little after hearing such words. Looks like I will need something stronger if I want to cultivate this technique properly. I should pick a fight with another giant and use them to train this technique. Yuan said with a weird smile on his face. I won't say anything as long as it's a match and you're not actually picking a fight, Huang Shaoli said. Anyways, let's, boom. The entire building suddenly shook violently. An earthquake. Huang Shaoli looked around with a raised eyebrow. No, this isn't caused by an earthquake. It's too unnatural. Yuan said. Everyone in the hotel proceeded to look outside the window, and to their absolute shock, a giant that size of an actual mountain had suddenly appeared outside the city. Holy shit, Yuan muttered in a dumbfounded voice when he saw the size of this giant. If he stood before this giant, he would figuratively and literally be like an ant. What are they doing? Huang Shaoli pointed at the giants in the street, as they had all suddenly dropped to their knees and kowtowed towards the giant outside the city. Her question would be answered the following moment when every giant in the city could be heard shouting, "We pay respects to His Majesty, Giant Emperor Kulis." The entire city shook for a second time when all of the giants there paid their respects to Giant Emperor Kulis, who was the current ruler of the giants' continent. However, Giant Emperor Kulis ignored the giants and swept the city with his gaze. Every single individual that entered his gaze trembled with awe. A few moments of silence later, Giant Emperor Kulis spoke in a deafening voice. How long do you plan on hiding? I know you're here. Tianyang, get your ass out here and fight me. Yuan's eyes widened with shock when he heard the name Tianyang come out of the giant emperor's mouth. This is Tianyang's memories? I thought this was the god of war's memories. And what relationship does he have with the giant emperor? The giant emperor looks pissed. He cried inwardly, not daring to respond to the giant emperor's call, as that would be akin to suicide with his current strength. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1021. Published at 6th of June 2022 2:09 and 9 seconds p.m. Chapter 1021. 1021 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1021, Giant Emperor Kulis, Tianyang. Get your ass out here. I won't move a single inch until you come out and fight me like a man. Or have you become a coward since our last duel? Giant Emperor Kulis roared when Yuan didn't respond to his callings. The giants in the city were baffled by the Giant Emperor Kulis' words. In their eyes, Giant Emperor Kulis was the strongest giant in their race. He was a proud warrior with a godlike physique that has never lost a fight before. While many giants would challenge him, they don't recall the last time he personally challenged another person to a fight. And judging by his recent words, it seemed that Giant Emperor Kulis was desperate to fight this individual known as Tianyang. However, nobody there knew of a giant by that name. Do you know of a Tianyang? No, I don't. The giants in the city mumbled to each other while Giant Emperor Kulis stood before their city, his gaze sweeping through it. Just who is this Tianyang and why does the Giant Emperor want to fight him? Huang Shaoli mumbled in a dazed voice as she stared at the massive giant standing outside the city. Who knows? Yuan shrugged. Despite being very confident in his own strength, Yuan knew that he was not an opponent for Giant Emperor Kulis, who appeared to be above Spirit Sovereign. Therefore, he decided to ignore Giant Emperor Kulis' entire existence by pretending to not see him. I'm going to cultivate, Yuan said as he returned to his room. However, he would soon realize that was an impossible feat with the Giant Emperor shouting his name every few minutes. Tianyang, you dare ignore me? Get your ass out here. Tianyang, I have all day. I will stand here until you leave. Giant Emperor Kulis made it impossible for the residents of the city to have a peaceful mind and impossible to cultivate. However, none of the giants complained. They wouldn't dare to complain even if Giant Emperor Kulis decided to erase their city from the continent. In the giants' continent, Giant Emperor Kulis was nature and the law. Whatever he says goes. However, while the giants could not do anything about Giant Emperor Kulis, they could do something about this Tianyang. This Tianyang is ignoring His Majesty's summoning and making His Majesty wait. The audacity. Yeah. Let's find this bastard for His Majesty. Drag out this Tianyang from whatever rat hole he's hiding in. Eventually, all of the giants in the city began looking for this Tianyang. I think this Tianyang is a human. Yeah. No giant would ever disobey His Majesty so openly. Gather all of the humans in this city. We must find this Tianyang at all cost. The giants in the city began gathering all of the humans they could find outside the city, where Giant Emperor Kulis was waiting. Yuan. The hotel staff are telling us that we need to gather with the other humans outside the city. Huang Shaoli called for him outside his room. Seriously? Yuan rubbed his eyes in a stressful manner after hearing her words. Is it impossible to avoid the Giant Emperor? Do I really have to fight him? He wondered as he opened the door and went outside. It's alright, you guys can stay here. Yuan said to the Huang family after leaving his room. Huh? Did you not hear me? They want every human in the city to gather outside the city. They could kill us if we refuse. This is all because of Tianyang, who's been ignoring the Giant Emperor. Huang Shaoli gritted her teeth in frustration. I'm telling you that it's fine. Nothing will happen. Because I am Tianyang. Yuan revealed this fact to them. Why you're Tianyang? They all stared at him with shocked faces. Well, I am Yuan, but I am also Tianyang. It's a nickname. He said with a bittersweet smile. Isn't this your first time to the Giant's continent? Why would you know the Giant Emperor if that was the case? And why are you avoiding him? Huang Qin frowned, becoming suspicious of Yuan's identity. This is really my first time coming to the Giant's continent. As for the Giant Emperor, I met him outside the Giant's continent. And the reason I am avoiding him is because I don't want to fight him. Yuan shrugged, making up all sorts of excuses. Pada Ovil. Anyways, since they're going through this much trouble to bring me out, I will go have a chat with the Giant Emperor. Yuan. Whatever you do, do not offend the Giant Emperor. He is literally heaven to the giants. You don't want to offend someone like him, especially not in his territory. Huang Shaoli warned him. I want. Yuan said before flying out of the window and towards the giant outside the city. When Giant Emperor Kulis saw Yuan flying towards him, he started laughing out loud. There you are, Tianyang. Did you not hear me calling for you? Why were you hiding from me? Did you not want to fight me? The giants in the city stopped their movements after hearing Giant Emperor Kulis' words, and they all silently spectated the situation. I'm here on private business, so of course I don't want to fight you. I don't want to attract too much attention after all. Yuan said. Haha. That's a load of bullshit. If you didn't want to fight me, why would you use that technique? You're clearly provoking me. Technique? What technique? Yuan raised his eyebrows. Still acting dumb? Or do you believe that I had forgotten about it? Too bad for you, I have never forgotten about that golden aura of yours since our last fight. I came here the moment I sensed it. Giant Emperor Kulis said. Yuan's eyes widened with surprise after hearing the true purpose of Giant Emperor Kulis' visit. He came here because he sensed my golden aura? Does he know something about it? If he does, I must ask him. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. This is the first time that someone besides Tianyang knew something about his golden aura, and this could be his opportunity to learn something about it. Since you seem to know so much about the golden aura, why don't you tell me everything you know about it? If you do, I will fight you. Giant Emperor Kulis did not immediately respond to him. After a moment of silence, he spoke. I didn't notice it at first due to my excitement, but what happened to your cultivation base? Why are you so pitifully weak? I wouldn't enjoy beating you in your current state. Yuan pondered for a moment before speaking. I was injured not long ago, and that affected my cultivation. Giant Emperor Kulis narrowed his eyes at Yuan. Forget it then. I don't want to fight you in your current state. Come back when you're stronger. And without saying anything else, Giant Emperor Kulis turned around and walked away, leaving Yuan utterly speechless. This fucker. How can he leave things like this? He came here so suddenly and even caused such a commotion. Is the stairway to heaven trying to tease me? However, Giant Emperor Kulis stopped after taking a few steps. He turned around and looked at Yuan. My family is hosting a tournament next month. If you win it, I will tell you everything I know about the golden aura. See you there. After saying such words, Giant Emperor Kulis leaped into the sky and disappeared into the horizon. The tournament? Unless it's going to happen in the next trial, I will most likely have to wait until I ascend to the fourth heaven. He sighed inwardly. Yuan returned to the Huang family shortly after. Are you okay? What happened? Why did the Giant Emperor leave so suddenly? It's nothing much. He wants me to participate in the tournament next month, the one Sorgi talked about. However, that isn't possible since I will be leaving this place with your family before it can happen. Huang Shaoli immediately began pondering. After a moment of silence, she turned to look at her father and spoke, "Father, I have a request. I think I have an idea about what you're going to ask me, but ask away anyway. Let's stay in the Giants continent for a little longer. We can leave after the tournament. I really want to see Yuan fighting against the other Giants, especially after what I witnessed today. It's going to be amazing." Huang Qin sighed after hearing his daughter's request. He turned to look at Yuan and asked him a moment later, "What do you think? Do you want to participate in this tournament? Since the Giant Emperor is expecting your presence there, I cannot be the reason why you miss it." Yuan nodded, "I would like to participate in the tournament." "Then it's settled. Well, stay here for a couple more weeks," Huang Qin declared. "Thank you, Senior Huang," Yuan said to him. "There's no need to thank me. You saved my family's lives more than once after all. And I also want to see how you will fare against the strongest giants in the continent. However, since the location of the tournament is a little far away, we will need to start making our way there right now if we want to make it there in time for the tournament. As for my business, it can wait until we reach the capital. I will have a higher chance of acquiring more valuable treasures over there than here," Huang Qin said. "If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters." Chapter 1022. Published at 6th of June 2022 2:09 and 7 seconds p.m. Chapter 1022. 1022 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1022 Tournament of Strength. What about the ship? It will leave with or without us in 14 days, right? Yuan asked. Yes, but it will return in 7 days for another 14 days. If we miss that, we can wait for the next one. It's really not that big of a deal. Most people that come to this continent tend to stay here for over a month too, Huang Qin said. All right. The Huang family quickly packed their stuff and checked out of the hotel. When they left the hotel, everyone in the street would stop whatever they were doing to stare at Yuan. However, nobody there dared to approach him. Is that him? The human that His Majesty had challenged? Yes, that's him. Where do you think he's going? According to the rumors, His Majesty is expecting to see him at the tournament next month. What? A human participating in the Tournament of Strength? That's ridiculous. Who knows? A human recognized by His Majesty isn't someone we should look down upon. Sometime later, Yuan's group stopped by a large building. Since we're going to be traveling a long distance, we'll need to rent a carriage and hire a driver, Huang Qin said. I can pay for it since I'm the reason we're making the journey, Yuan said. It's fine. I got it. Huang Qin smiled at him. Half an hour later, Huang Qin returned to them and said, They're preparing the carriage and our driver. They should be ready in an hour. Until then, let's go get something to eat. Sure. They walked around until they could find a restaurant that was operated by a human, as the restaurants for giants were simply too big for them. Huang Shaoli remembered Yuan's monstrous eating habits and ordered a full table of food just for him. As they began eating, giants would gather outside the restaurant and peek inside, all of them seemingly there to look at Yuan. That's Tianyang? What's so special about him? I don't know. Hey, I recognize him. He fought with Sorgi earlier today and won. What? Sorgi? Seriously? He's one of the strongest warriors in this city. So what if he beat Sorgi? Compared to the warriors that will be attending the Tournament of Strength, Sorgi is no different than an ant. He didn't just beat Sorgi. He overwhelmed Sorgi, even breaking his arm. Although it was even at first, he suddenly used a mysterious power that still sends shivers down my spine when I recall it. Yuan ignored the giants watching them from outside like they were part of some kind of exhibit. However, the Huang family was quite nervous from all of the staring. After eating, Yuan and the Huang family made their way to the gathering point, where a large carriage made for giants was already prepared for them. That's going to be dragging the carriage? Yuan was expecting horses, but he got something entirely different. Yes, that's a green earth dragon. They may have the word dragon in their name, but they're really just large lizards. Horses aren't used here because they're too weak for giants. Huang Shaoli explained. Are you guys ready? The driver, a 7-meter-tall male giant, asked them. Yes, we're ready. Huang Qin nodded. The giant nodded back and commanded the green earth dragon to move, dragging the carriage away from the southern stronghold and towards Colossal Mammoth City. How much do you guys know about the tournament? Yuan asked the Huang family as they moved. Not much, except that it's the biggest event in the entire continent that only occurs every 100 years. Huang Qin said. I believe it's called the Tournament of Strength. The strongest warriors from around the world will participate in it. The winners will not only receive a powerful technique but also the title of Colossal, something that can only be held by the strongest person in the continent. If you win this tournament, you can expect unimaginable wealth and fame within the Giants' continent. Rumors even say that you'll be able to join the royal family by marrying one of their princesses. Huang Shaoli added. The royal family. That would be the Giant Emperor's family, right? Yuan asked for confirmation. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. That's right. Giant Emperor Kulis is not only the strongest entity in this world but also the most influential. His words are the law and his actions are akin to nature. Nobody dares to oppose him. Do you think you'll be able to win the tournament? She asked a moment later. Yuan immediately shook his head with a bittersweet smile. In my current state? I don't think so. Really? Even though the Giant Emperor wanted you to participate? I have no idea what that guy has in his mind. He shrugged. Sometime later, the driver suddenly shouted, "We have incoming magical beasts." They stopped talking and looked in front of them, where a single beast that stood on 2 legs could be seen blocking the road. That's a wingless dragon. And it's emitting the strength of a spirit emperor. Qin Kai exclaimed. If there's only one of them, I can handle it. Yuan said as he leaped from the carriage and into the sky, where he quickly charged up a heaven-splitting sword strike. Whoosh! The wingless dragon was consumed by the heaven-splitting sword strike, disappearing alongside the road, where a large crater now existed. The giant stopped the carriage for a moment to look at Yuan with wide eyes, seemingly not daring to believe his eyes. Once Yuan returned to the carriage, the giant continued to drive the carriage. Wow! That was amazing! Huang Shaoli exclaimed. If only you could use spiritual attacks at the tournament, you would definitely win. If only, he smiled. If I want to win the tournament, I will need to temper my body even more. If only I could use the golden aura at will. Since I cannot do that, I will need to think of another way to increase my chances of winning. After pondering for some time, Yuan recalled the nameless technique being trained by Li Jinsi. Perhaps I can use that temporarily, he thought inwardly. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1023, published at 8th of June 2022, 5:18 and 8 seconds p.m. Chapter 1023. 1023 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1023, unbearable pain. Yuan closed his eyes and began reciting the nameless technique inside his head. About an hour later, the Huang family could see a red aura emanating from Yuan's body, and he gave off the feeling of a wild beast who thirsted for blood. Why, Yuan? Are you okay? Huang Shaoli asked him in a nervous voice, as the pressure coming from him was quite overwhelming. He opened his eyes and nodded with a calm expression. Don't worry, I am fine. It's just a new technique that I recently learned. Meanwhile, in the spectators' room, Li Jinsi stared at Yuan and his red aura with wide eyes. That red aura looks very familiar, Xu Liuxiang mumbled out loud when she saw it. It's my technique, Li Jinsi said. Huh? You taught it to him? When he started training me. If he understood my technique, then he would be able to train me better. I didn't think he would want to learn something like that because he said that it wasn't created for humans. Not that I am complaining. Since I gave him the technique, I don't mind if he uses it as well. A technique not created for humans? Can you use it for me? I would like to see it. Feng Yuxiang suddenly asked. Sure. Li Jinsi nodded. She proceeded to activate her nameless technique, showing off her red aura that looked just like the one surrounding Yuan at this moment. I see. The young master is right. This technique does give off a beastly vibe and it's a fairly strong one. Is it a divine rank technique? Li Jinsi nodded. My family always thought it was only a heaven rank technique for some reason. It wasn't until she learned the technique and that she found out the technique was actually a divine rank technique and not a mere heaven rank technique. Do you know what kind of beast this technique was created for? Li Jinsi asked. Feng Yuxiang narrowed her eyes and pondered for a moment before speaking. I have a feeling that I have encountered that kind of aura before, but I cannot remember when or where. Sorry. It's fine. Li Jinsi shook her head. Do you know the origin of the technique? Feng Yuxiang then asked. I do not. It's been with my family since ancient times. Your surname is Li, right? If I recall correctly, there is a well-known family with that surname in the third heaven, and they're all beast tamers that utilize the power of beasts. Maybe they know something about it. I guess we'll find out when we get there. Half an hour later, Yuan's carriage encountered another magical beast. This time he did not use Heavenly Splitting Sword Strike. Instead, he used the Nameless technique and confronted the magical beast head-on with the Empyrean Overlord. Sha. The Empyrean Overlord sliced through the magical beast as though it was tofu, and Yuan noticed his aura growing a little stronger when he killed the magic beast. Nameless technique. Rank, Divine. Description: increases your overall strength and removes the limit on your body to a certain extent. The Nameless technique was a simple yet profound technique that is more than it appears. Yuan looked at the red aura that covered his body after killing the magical beast, feeling an overwhelming sense of strength. However, right as he was getting comfortable with the Nameless technique, Yuan suddenly felt an intense sensation of pain coming from his heart, almost like he was having a heart attack. He immediately knelt on the ground and clenched his chest. "Arg!" he screamed out loud. The pain coming from his heart was many times stronger than his worst body tempering session, and it felt like his heart was being torn apart. "Yuan? Are you okay?" The Huang family was shocked when they saw this. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. However, Yuan did not hear them speaking at all, as a deafening voice was resounding inside his head at this moment. "How dare you use another aura when you already have Heaven's supremacy?" This deep voice sounded very familiar to Yuan, but he does not recall where he had heard it, not that he was in the condition to ponder. The Huang family then watched as a golden aura began emanating from Yuan's body, quickly consuming the red aura. Eventually, the red aura was completely replaced with the golden aura. The pain stopped shortly after, and Yuan was finally able to take a deep breath. What the hell happened just now? What was that voice? He cried inwardly, his body soaked in cold sweat as the painful sensation still lingered in his body. "Yuan?" Huang Shaoli jumped off the carriage and rushed over to see his condition. "Your face is so pale. What happened to you?" She was shocked when she saw his ghastly complexion. "I think I experienced some kind of backlash. I should be fine after some rest," he said. Huang Shaoli supported Yuan with her shoulder until they returned to the carriage. "Here, eat this spirit replenishing pill. It should help you." Huang Qin handed him a pill that restored his spiritual energy. Even though he barely used his spiritual energy, Yuan still consumed the pill, and he could feel a burst of refreshing energy spreading throughout his entire body. While he rested, Yuan tried to recall where he had heard that voice before. "That's right. I remember now. I heard that voice during one of my dreams," he finally recalled. However, that only made the situation even more puzzling. Why did I hear that voice just now? It mentioned Heaven's supremacy. Is that the name of that mysterious aura? He wondered inwardly as the carriage continued moving. The voice sounded angry when I used the Nameless technique. Almost like it has its own consciousness, but how is that possible? Yuan pondered and pondered, but he was unable to understand with this tiny amount of information. Should I use the Nameless technique again to see if it will happen again? He wondered inwardly, yet he was hesitant to do so, mostly because he didn't want to experience that unbearable pain again. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1024. Published at 8th of June 2022 5:18 and 6 seconds p.m. Chapter 1024. 1024 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1024. Soul Strength. No, I shouldn't use the Nameless technique again, at least not now. We'll need to settle down somewhere before I try again. Yuan thought to himself. After all, if he tried using the Nameless technique and loses consciousness due to the backlash, he wouldn't be able to protect the Huang family and fail the stairway to heaven. Fortunately for Yuan, his headache vanished half an hour later, and his pale complexion was also restored back to normal. You shouldn't use that technique again. I think there might be something wrong with it. Huang Shaoli warned him. All right, he nodded with a bitter smile. As they continued their journey to Colossal Mammoth City, Yuan would protect the carriage from all sorts of magical beasts, with most of them having the strength of a spirit emperor. These trials are getting too ridiculous too quickly. I am only trying to ascend to the third heaven and I am already forced to fight spirit emperors. At this rate, I will have to fight immortals if I wish to ascend to the fourth heaven. Yuan sighed inwardly. How are you feeling, Yuan? I'm sorry you have to endure all of this all by yourself. I would love to help, but I am simply powerless in this place. Huang Shaoli felt a little guilty when she saw how Yuan was dealing with all of their threats all by himself. Don't worry about me. I am the reason we're making this unnecessary trip in the first place, so it's only reasonable for me to bear the responsibility and protect all of you. By the way, how far are we from our destination? He turned to ask the driver. At the pace we're moving, we should arrive in 20 days. 20 days, huh? Yuan didn't say anything else and closed his eyes to cultivate. For the next 4 days, Yuan would do nothing but protect their carriage from magical beasts. At the end of the 4th day, the driver said to them, "There's a city up ahead. If you wish to take any breaks, now would be the time. We won't see the next city for another week after this one. I would like to take a bath and eat some food." Huang Shaoli immediately said. "Do you mind if we stop here for a bit, Yuan?" Huang Chen asked him. "You don't need to ask me, even if you want to stay here for a night or two," Yuan said. "All right, then we'll stop here for a couple of hours before we continue our journey." Huang Chen nodded. Once they arrived at the city, the driver said to them, "I will wait for you here. Take as long as you need." "Are you sure? You can take a break as well." Huang Shaoli said to him. "Thank you for your consideration, but I take my job very seriously. I won't leave this carriage until I bring all of you to Colossal Mammoth City." "I understand." Sometime later, the Huang family rented a hotel room for 1 day, allowing everyone to enjoy a hot bath. "Ah, that felt great," Huang Shaoli exclaimed in a satisfied voice after coming out of the bathroom with a towel wrapped around her body, her hair still dripping wet. Huang Qin frowned when he saw her appearance and he said, "You're not at home. Mind your appearance." "Oh, right." Huang Shaoli quickly went back into the bathroom to dry her hair and wear clothes. After leaving the hotel, they went to a nearby restaurant and ate until all of their stomachs were bloated. They returned to the driver waiting outside the city afterward, continuing their journey for another 7 days. The magical beasts they encountered during these 7 days were stronger than the previous encounters. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. The magical beasts are getting stronger as we get closer to the Colossal Mammoth City, but my strength isn't increasing. Unless I consume a monster core or a demon core, I won't be able to suddenly increase my strength to pass the trial like last time. On their 5th day to their 2nd checkpoint, the carriage came to a complete halt when a magical beast that stood on 2 legs with a pair of closed wings behind its back blocked their path. "That's a mountain dragon." The driver appeared to be terrified of this magical beast. Just as the name sounds, this magical beast was like a small mountain that blocked their path. "I will need to use the God of War's astral arts if I want to deal with this beast." Yuan sighed inwardly after sensing the overwhelming aura coming from the magical beast. "I will be right back," Yuan said to the Huang family as he flew into the air and used God of War's astral arts. What in coolest name is that?" The giant cried out loud when he saw the massive figure that appeared out of the blue in the sky. Then he watched as the golden armored figure flattened the mountain dragon with a single strike, causing the entire world to tremble as well. It wasn't just the driver. Even the green earth dragon pulling their carriage was shocked by what it had just witnessed. It has seen many things throughout its life as a carriage puller, but it has never met a human with such prowess before. Yuan returned to the carriage shortly after killing the mountain dragon with a pale complexion. "Are you sure you're not pushing yourself? At this rate, you won't have enough strength left for the tournament." Huang Shaoli sighed as she positioned Yuan's head to rest on her soft legs. "That technique uses my soul strength instead of my spiritual energy, so I will be fine as long as I get enough rest," he said. "Soul strength, huh?" Huang Shaoli suddenly put on a pondering face. She turned to look at Huang Chen and asked, "Father, don't you know any arrays that could help replenish his soul strength?" "Actually, I do." He nodded. "Really?" Yuan was pleasantly surprised to hear this. "Yes. Give me a minute." Huang Chen nodded as he began creating array symbols that Yuan didn't recognize. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1025. Published at 10th of June 2022 1:09 and 11 seconds p.m. Chapter 1025. 1025 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1025. Soul Nourishment Array. After spending a few minutes creating array symbols, Huang Chen pointed his hands at Yuan and gestured for the symbols to activate Soul Nourishment Array. The array symbols surrounded Yuan and illuminated a beautiful golden light. Although the difference wasn't anything major, Yuan's soul strength was definitely recovering noticeably faster. "How do you feel, Yuan?" Huang Shaoli asked him. "This array is really useful. I've been thinking about getting a soul cultivation technique, But this could work as well, at least temporary. Do you mind teaching me this array? They'll be able to use my trump card much more often if I have this array. Of course it's okay to refuse. I am aware that it's a valuable array since anything that can restore soul strength is valuable. He asked Huang Qin. I don't mind teaching you the soul nourishment array, but will you even be able to use it? It's a level 4 array combination that's even more difficult than some level 5 array combinations. Huang Qin said. Level 4 array combination. I only know up to level 3 array symbols. Yuan sighed. You can always learn level 4 array symbols. I mean, you're a quick learner and a genius array master. Here, you can have this. Huang Shaoli handed him a thin book that read 2000 master array symbols. Thank you. Yuan accepted the book and immediately started flipping through the pages to memorize the content. Since there were only 2000 array symbols, it didn't take long for him to memorize all of them. Erase the soul nourishment array. Huang Qin handed him the array combination next. Thank you. Yuan also memorized the array combination right after acquiring it. Since he couldn't take these items outside the stairway to heaven, he needed to memorize them before the trial ended. While Huang Qin maintained the soul nourishment array, Yuan would study the level 4 array symbols. They continued this until they finally arrived at their second checkpoint. Do you wish to rest here like before? The driver asked them. Yes, please. All right. Once the carriage was parked, Yuan and the Huang family entered the city to take another break. Shortly after Yuan and the others entered the city, a tall figure wearing a cloak approached their carriage, where the driver was patiently waiting for their return. Hey, I have some questions for you. The cloaked figure asked the driver. A woman? The driver raised his eyebrows after hearing her clear voice, and judging by the size of this figure, she appeared to be human. What kind of questions? The driver asked. The woman proceeded to ask him several questions. Sorry, but I cannot answer these questions. The driver politely refused this mysterious woman after hearing her questions. The woman sighed. I didn't want to do this, but... The driver immediately prepared to retaliate after hearing this woman's ominous words. Calm down. I'm not here to fight, she said after seeing the driver getting defensive and all. I'm going to show you my face. Don't shout too loudly. The woman said as she removed her hood just enough to reveal her facial appearance to the driver. Why you're... The driver's eyes widened with shock upon realizing the identity of this woman. Shoo. The woman quickly shushed him with a finger between her lips. Now tell me what I want to know, she then said. All right. The driver couldn't refuse her after recognizing her identity. After spending several hours inside the city, Yuan and the Huang family returned to the carriage, but to their surprise, there was someone they didn't recognize with the driver, mostly because they were wearing a cloak that hid their face and identity. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. Who are you? Huang Qin asked this cloaked figure. Hello, my name is Xiamei. I have been looking for you, Tianyang. The woman suddenly introduced herself. Yuan frowned slightly and said, Yuan. Then why did you answer the giant emperor who was calling for Tianyang? She asked with a smile. What do you want from me? He asked. Nothing really. I'm just interested in you who has managed to receive the giant emperor's attention. As far as I am aware, the giant emperor isn't interested in weaklings. In fact, he wouldn't even acknowledge one's existence until they prove their strength. However, you have not only managed to attract his attention but even make him personally visit you. That's the first time I've seen him do something like that. You're going to Colossal Mammoth City for the Tournament of Strength, right? Do you mind if I tagged along? I promise that I won't be a bother. In fact, I'll even help out with protecting the carriage. I may not look like it, but I'm pretty strong. Xiamei made a gesture that one would normally make to show off their biceps, but the cloak hid everything. Yuan narrowed his eyes at this mysterious woman. I cannot sense her cultivation base, but she's definitely not immortal, so she must be above Spirit Emperor. It would be a great help if someone like her joins our journey, he thought to himself. Furthermore, it was not as though he had the power to stop this woman from following them if she really wanted to. Do you mind if she joined us? Yuan turned to look at the Huang family. If you're okay with it, I won't say anything, Huang Qin said. Yuan turned to look at the driver, who immediately nodded his head. The driver is acting weird. Does he know this woman? Yuan thought to himself after noticing the nervousness within the driver's gaze. All right, you can follow us, Yuan said to Xiamei a moment later. Thank you, Tianyang. Call me Yuan. That is my name. Yuan corrected her. Okay, Yuan. Nice to meet you. They returned to the road sometime later, but now with a new addition. This mysterious woman named CMA whose motives were as mysterious as her identity. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1026. Published at 10th of June 2022 1:09 and 10 seconds p.m. Chapter 1026. 1026 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1026. Mysterious woman. After leaving the city, the driver said to them, "There won't be any more stops until we reach Colossal Mammoth City now." "All right," Yuan said as he pulled out the Level 4 Array Symbols manual and started studying it. CMA, who has been staring at him since they got on the carriage, suddenly asked, "What are you doing?" "I'm learning array symbols. I will need all of the concentration I can get before we're attacked by magical beasts, so if you don't mind, don't bother me until I am done. You promised that you wouldn't be a bother, right?" That's not fun. Let's talk a little before you focus on that book," CMA said. "Hey, stop bothering him or I will kick you out of here." Huang Shaoli interrupted with a slight frown on her face. The driver in the front snapped his head and looked at Huang Shaoli with wide eyes. "Oh my god. She just threatened her," he cried inwardly. CMA turned to look at Huang Shaoli and smiled underneath her cloak. "You'll kick me out? How are you going to do that?" "A mere spirit grandmaster, I can crush you with a single pinky." CMA showed Huang Shaoli her pinky and even wiggled it around in a provoking manner. Yuan suddenly sighed and looked away from his book to look at CMA. "Did you come here just to pick a fight? If that's the case, let's get this over with." Although he wasn't confident in beating her, he had a chance if he could catch her off guard with the God of War's astral arts. "Relax, I don't want to fight you, at least not right now." Yuan narrowed his eyes at her words that implied that she wanted to fight him at a later date. "The Tournament of Strength. I will be participating in it as well. As much as I want to fight you now, I will wait until we both enter the stage," CMA said. "You're also participating in the Tournament of Strength? I understand Yuan's reason for joining, but you as well? Aren't you a human?" Huang Shaoli was surprised to hear that a female human wanted to join the Tournament of Strength. "So what if I am human? There are no rules that prohibit humans from participating in the Tournament of Strength. In fact, many humans participate in every tournament, though no human has ever won the tournament before." "A female body refiner, huh? How rare," Huang Qin mumbled. "Anyways, I just want to talk a little. I will stop bothering you afterward. Please?" CMA said a moment later, even clasping her palms together in a pleading gesture. "Fine. What do you want to talk about?" Yuan agreed to her proposal. "How did you meet the Giant Emperor?" "That's a secret between us." Yuan made up an excuse since he didn't know. "Fair enough. Then why does the Giant Emperor want to fight you?" "I don't know. Go ask him. He's the one who challenged me." He shrugged. "I can't argue that. All right then. Why did you come to the Giants' continent if not to participate in the Tournament of Strength?" Yuan pointed at the Huang family and said, "I am here as their bodyguard, and they're here to exchange their treasures." "Seriously? That's why you're here?" CMA mumbled in a dazed voice, seemingly in disbelief. After asking Yuan several more questions, CMA finally stopped bothering him. However, it didn't take long before he was distracted again. The moment he sensed a magical beast nearby, Yuan dropped the book in his hands and retrieved the Empyrean Overlord. His movements were incredibly fluid and without any hesitation, almost as though he's done this 1,000 times before. Vanishing Ghost's Soundless Blade. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. Yuan's arms flickered and disappeared for a split second, and in a speed that nobody there but CMA could see, he sliced the magical beast over a dozen times, separating its body into many pieces. "Not bad." CMA praised him after he returned to the carriage. "Thanks," Yuan casually said as he picked up his book and began reading again. An hour later, Yuan sensed another magical beast approaching their location. "I got this one," CMA suddenly said, and she left the carriage before Yuan could even stand up. Yuan and the others watched as CMA flew at the magical beast before giving it a single punch. Although the punch looked ordinary, there was actually an immense force behind it, and when the fist connected with the magical beast, it blew a massive hole in the magical beast body. "What?" Huang Shaoli's eyes widened with shock after seeing how little effort CMA exerted to defeat the Spirit Emperor magical beast. After killing the magical beast with a single punch, CMA returned to the carriage. "What do you think? Do you think you'll be able to survive my fist?" By the way, that wasn't even half of my full power, Xiamei said. Although he couldn't see it, he was sure that there was a smug smile on her face right now just from her voice alone. Aren't you ashamed to be asking a mere spirit lord such a question when you're above spirit emperor? Yuan asked her. Can a mere spirit lord kill a spirit emperor magical beast with such ease? She responded with a question. I can tell that you're not using all of your power. I think I understand why the giant emperor took interest in you, but you're nowhere near the level to fight him, so I'm a little puzzled why he would challenge you. Xiamei suddenly looked around in a suspicious manner. A few moments later she spoke, now that we're pretty far away from the city, it should be fine if I show my face. And without any warning, she removed the cloak that had been hiding her appearance this entire time. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1027, published at 13th of June 2022 6:57 and 20 seconds p.m. Chapter 1027. 1027 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1027, Colossal Tower. Yuan's eyes widened with surprise after Xiamei removed her cloak, but it was an unexpected one. He raised his eyebrows after seeing Xiamei's appearance without recognizing her. Xiamei was an incredibly beautiful woman with blonde hair and green eyes. She had a slim hourglass figure and her breasts were quite ample. Her facial features were sharp and symmetrical, and her face gave off the aura of a battle-hardened warrior who has survived many battlefields. Yuan thought that the trend of meeting people with similar faces that he already knew like Meishio in the first trial would continue in the second trial, but that did not seem to be the case. I can tell that you're charmed by my beauty, but I'm sorry, I will only seriously consider someone who is stronger than me to be my partner, Xiamei suddenly said. Yuan raised an eyebrow and said, No, I just don't understand why you decided to hide your identity. I thought you were someone I knew, but that doesn't seem to be the case. I have my own reasons for hiding my identity. Yuan casually shrugged and proceeded to ignore Xiamei, returning to his study. Nobody here recognizes me? Seriously? Xiamei muttered in a dumbfounded voice when even the Huang family began ignoring her. I recognize you, the driver said in a low and somewhat nervous voice. However, Xiamei didn't even look at him, almost as though she didn't even acknowledge his existence. Several days later, the carriage came to a stop when they finally arrived at their destination, Colossal Mammoth City. Xiamei, who was back to hiding her appearance, said to them, The last few days were fun. Thank you for letting me tag along. I would love to continue tagging along, but I have to prepare for the Tournament of Strength, so we will have to go our separate ways here. While I still don't know who you are or your purpose for following us, I am glad that you did, as we have managed to arrive at our destination in one piece. It would have been really dangerous for us if I had to deal with all of the magical beasts by myself. Yuan said to her. I'm sure you would have managed it even if you had to do it by yourself. Anyways, I will see you later, Yuan. Don't disappoint me at the tournament. I really look forward to exchanging fists with you. Xiamei disappeared into the city shortly after, followed by Yuan and the Huang family. We have a little over a week until the tournament. I am going to use this time to exchange my treasures, Huang Qin announced to everyone there. Once they rented a hotel, Yuan followed Huang Qin and Huang Shaoli to exchange their treasures while Dong Zhou and Qin Kai stayed back to protect Mistress Huang and her son. Since this was their first time coming to the Colossal Mammoth City, Huang Qin had to spend some time gathering information about the best places to exchange treasures. Then you are most likely looking for the Colossal Tower. It's the hottest location in this city when it comes to treasures. Most visitors go there to exchange their treasures as well. Thank you for the information. Here's a token of my gratitude. Huang Qin handed some gold to the person that provided him with the information. Meanwhile, Yuan looked around with a pondering face. The giants in this place are noticeably larger than the ones in the last two cities. Yuan mumbled. Of course. This is the capital of the giants' continent, not to mention the upcoming tournament. All of the strongest giants in the continent will be gathered in this city. Huang Shaoli said. I am aware of that, but I didn't think there would be such a vast difference. Just wait until the tournament. You'll be like an ant compared to most of them. Sometime later they arrived at the Colossal Tower, and just as its name suggests, the place was enormous, and it was one of the biggest buildings Yuan had ever seen in his life. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. The building was so tall that he couldn't see the top even with his head tilted all the way back. I can't imagine how much effort and resources the giants had to spend to build this magnificent tower. I have always wanted to see it after hearing about it during my first time on this continent. Huang Qin sharply sucked in a bunch of cold air before mumbling in a dazed voice. They entered the building sometime later. Make sure you don't wander and you keep your focus. It's actually very common for humans to die here, and most of them are accidents caused by giants and humans when we fail to pay attention to our surroundings. We're like ants in this place after all. Huang Qin warned them. Huang Shaoli swallowed nervously and immediately stuck to Yuan. Do you mind if we hold hands? She asked him, acting like a child who did not want to be separated from her parents by accident in a large shopping mall. Sure. Yuan nodded and held onto her soft hands. Their group began wandering the tower, approaching every store that caught Huang Chen's attention. Yuan didn't do much besides pay attention to their surroundings to make sure they don't get stepped on by accident. As for Huang Shaoli, she was focused on the sensation around her hands, feeling like she was on a date with Yuan. Over the next couple of hours, they would go through dozens of stores and even some personal vendors. At the end of the day, Huang Qin managed to exchange almost a dozen treasures. This place is truly heaven sent. The quality of treasures in this place is incomparably superior than the ones found in Southern Stronghold. Extending the business trip was definitely worth it. Hell, I might even do this every time I come to the Giants continent now. Huang Qin had a wide smile on his face as they exited the tower. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1028. Published at 13th of June 2022 6:57 and 19 seconds p.m. Chapter 1028. 1028 If audio player doesn't work, press stop then play button again. Chapter 1028, Colossal Tower, 2. Over the next few days, Yuan and the Huang family would return to the Colossal Tower early in the morning to exchange treasures until it was late at night. As the days got closer to the day of the Tournament of Strength, there were noticeable more giants that were above 15 meters walking around the city. At this rate, I will be done with my business by tonight, Huang Qin said to Yuan as they left one of the stores in the Colossal Tower. Yuan, you can exchange treasures with the giants if you want. It would be a shame to leave this place without a souvenir too. Huang Shaoli said to him. It's really fine. I don't have any treasures to exchange anyways. He shook his head. He obviously had plenty of treasures for trade, but since this was only a trial and nothing was real, he wouldn't actually gain anything from exchanging treasures, and such actions would only cause him to lose a treasure without anything in return. At the end of the day, Yuan and the Huang family made their way towards the exit of the Colossal Tower after Huang Qin exchanged the last treasure he had. Now that I am done with my business, there's only the Tournament of Strength left before we head back home, Huang Qin said. And he continued, Thank you Yuan for all of your effort. Really, I cannot thank you enough for everything you have done for my family. I am just doing my job. No, you've done more than that. I will compensate you properly once we get back to the hotel. I have the best reward for you. Once they exited the Colossal Tower, Yuan's group came to a sudden halt when a group of giants wearing armor blocked their way. What's happening? Huang Shaoli looked around with an uneasy face. However, before Huang Qin could even say anything, a familiar voice resounded, That's them. They're the ones that are conspiring against the giant emperor. Yuan turned to look at the voice to see a human woman pointing at them with a terrified look on her face. It was Zhou Nuiying, the bandit who became the Huang family's bodyguard to steal their treasures. She followed us all the way here? How did I not notice her? Yuan wondered inwardly. I will need all of you to come with me. We will kill you if you resist. One of the giants there said to them in a cold voice. Wait. This is a huge misunderstanding. That woman is lying. She's actually a bandit that we failed to kill when she tried to steal from my family. She's part of an infamous group of bandits called the Gold and Money Bandits. We only came here to exchange treasures. Huang Qin exclaimed with a pale face. I don't care about your situation. We take all accusations that could bring harm to His Majesty very seriously. We will determine whether you are telling the truth or not once we interrogate you. Resist and we will kill you on the spot. The giants pointed their massive weapons at Yuan's group. Yuan narrowed his eyes at Zhou Nuiying, who had a subtle smug on her face. How troublesome. These giants probably don't care about who is right or wrong. Their resolute and emotionless eyes tell me that they've already come to a conclusion. To kill all of us no matter if we are innocent or not, to remove all risks. After all, we humans are nothing in their eyes. Yuan closed his eyes and took a deep breath before shouting out loud, Giant Emperor Kulis. I know you can hear me. Get your ass out here or I will never fight you ever again, much less participate in your stupid tournament. The place turned dead silent as everyone there stared at Yuan with wide eyes filled with shock, all of them seemingly in disbelief. When the giants snapped out of their daze and realized that Yuan had just cursed their emperor, their faces immediately turned as red as a hot iron that had just left the fire. Huang Xiaoli and her father fell to their butts from shock, and they both stared at Yuan with disbelief. This fucking idiot? He just sealed his fate. Zhou Nuiying laughed inwardly. Blasphemy. How dare you curse at our emperor? A mere human. Even if the heavens forgive you, we giants will never forgive you. The giants there roared, causing the entire city to shake. Die. Visit Rietal. Me for extra chapters. The giant leading the armored giants suddenly swung his halberd at Yuan, causing the air there to tremble. Halt. A calm yet loud voice suddenly rumbled. When the giant heard this familiar voice, his entire body immediately froze. Everyone there turned to look at the direction of the voice to see a bulky man that was around 15 meters tall slowly approaching them. This man had short golden hair and a pair of emerald eyes. Yuan didn't recognize this man at first glance, but the giants there immediately recognized him even though he was much smaller than usual. All of the giants in that area suddenly knelt on the ground and kowtowed to him while screaming, "This loyal subject pays respects to His Majesty." Giant Emperor Kulis, who was suddenly much smaller compared to their last meeting, nodded and spoke, "Stand back. That man is an acquaintance." Yes. The giants did not question him and all stepped back, giving them room. Although your cultivation has weakened, your audacity remains unchanged. I was worried that you might have turned into a coward when you lost your cultivation. I'm relieved to see that was not the case. Giant Emperor Kulis said, seemingly not offended even though Yuan had cursed him out before so many giants. How did you know that I had been watching you? He then asked. Yuan smiled and said, You can try to hide your aura all you want, but you can't hide the killing intent within your gaze no matter how hard you try. I noticed you even before I entered this city a week ago. Ha ha ha. Giant Emperor Kulis suddenly laughed out loud. If you find any errors, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know so we can fix it as soon as possible. Tip: you can use left, right, A and D keyboard keys to browse between chapters. Chapter 1029. Don't misunderstand Tianyang. When I emit killing intent, it's not because I want to kill you. I only do it when I really want to fight someone and I really want to fight you right now, but alas, you're not ready yet. Giant Emperor Kulis said after he stopped laughing. Anyways, what is going on here? What is the cause of this commotion? You better have a good explanation on why you summoned me. It's really simple. Yuan proceeded to explain the whole situation to Giant Emperor Kulis. I see. Conspiring against me, huh? Oh, are you? Giant Emperor Kulis asked Yuan with a calm expression on his face. What do you think? Yuan responded with a question of his own. A wide grin suddenly appeared on Giant Emperor Kulis' face. You're many things, but you're definitely not a backstabber. He turned to look at Zhou Nuiying, who was on the verge of pissing herself right now from fear. She could have never imagined that Yuan would be buddies with Giant Emperor Kulis himself. The gold and money bandits, huh? I have never heard of you losers, but you must be a bold bunch to dare to try and trick my guards. Giant Emperor Kulis sneered in disgust. Guards? Public execution. When Zhou Nuiying heard Giant Emperor Kulis' words, her face immediately paled. Wait. He's lying to you. I'm not a bandit. I am really telling the truth. They're secretly plotting to harm you, Your Majesty. How dare you, a mere human, try to trick us? Die, you bitch. One of the guards there suddenly shoved his spear at Zhou Nuiying, piercing her stomach. And before Zhou Nuiying could even react, another guard also moved into action, penetrating her shoulder. Then another spear came flying at her. Visit L-World. Com, for the best no_undershinji experience. Within seconds, 7 spears skewered Zhou Nuiying's body without mercy. Die. The head guard swung his halberd, decapitating Zhou Nuiying the following second. Yuan and the others there watched as Zhou Nuiying's head rolled on the floor like a ball. Nobody there uttered a single word for the next few moments. Giant Emperor Kulis was the first to speak again, and his voice boomed throughout the city. Heed my words. This young man here is my lifelong rival, Tianyang. Nobody is allowed to touch him before the tournament of strength. Yes, Your Majesty. The giants there had many questions, but nobody there dared to ask these questions. Giant Emperor Kulis' words were the law. The moment he announces it, they lost all chances to dispute or question it. I look forward to your performance at the Tournament of Strength, Tianyang. Don't disappoint me. Giant Emperor Kulis said to Yuan before turning around and walking away. Yuan returned to the hotel with the Huang family shortly after. You almost scared me to death back there, Yuan. Huang Shaoli confronted him with a puffed face, trying to look angry. Sorry, but I didn't have any time to explain. Fortunately, it all worked out in the end. That could have been the end of all of us after all. Huang Chen could finally take a breather. Visit lworld.com for the best no_Sinji experience sometime later. Huang Chen stood up and approached Yuan. Yuan, this is for you. He retrieved a small wooden box and offered it to Yuan, who raised an eyebrow. What is this? He asked as he accepted it. Open it and see for yourself. NNO. Does this mean it's the end of the trial? Yuan wondered to himself as he opened the wooden box. However, it was not a golden orb inside the wooden box. Instead, it was red ginseng that was the size of an adult's finger and shaped like a human body. What is this? Yuan asked again since he didn't recognize the treasure. That's a perfect tempering ginseng. Huang Chen said with a smile on his face. Is that the perfect tempering ginseng? Inside the spectators' room, Feng Yuxiang exclaimed in a shocked voice after seeing the treasure. What kind of treasure is that? Chu Liuxiang asked with a curious look on her face. Perfect tempering ginseng. It's a priceless treasure that was only available during the primordial era. In other words, they are no longer available, at least they shouldn't be. What are the effects of this perfect tempering ginseng? Does it have anything to do with one's physique? Li Jinsi asked. She nodded. The perfect tempering ginseng will fix all imperfection within one's body and then refine it. It is a priceless treasure that will improve one's physique multiple times and is a legend that many body refiners spend their whole life chasing after even to this day. You can find the rest of this content on the lworld.com platform. Even if it's indeed this perfect tempering ginseng, does it really matter? I mean, we're still inside the stairway to heaven, so it's just an illusion. Meishio suddenly said. Yes, you're right. We're still inside the stairway to heaven. I guess I got a little excited after seeing a legendary treasure. It's truly unfortunate. Feng Yuxiang sighed. Meanwhile, Huang Chen just finished explaining the perfect tempering ginseng to Yuan. Since you're going to participate in the Tournament of Strength, this perfect tempering ginseng will benefit you greatly. Thank you. Yuan said with a smile on his face. What a pity. If only this treasure was real. He sighed inwardly. There's still a few days until the tournament. Go ahead and take this time to absorb the perfect tempering ginseng. Huang Chen then said to him. All right. Yuan nodded. Good luck. Huang Shaoli and the others said to him before he locked himself inside another room. Yuan looked at the perfect tempering ginseng in his grasp with a pondering look on his face. What the hell? There's no harm in trying it. Although this is just a simulation, all of the food that I ate had a taste to it, and this is probably no different. And without thinking any further, he tossed the perfect tempering ginseng inside his mouth and started chewing on it. It's so bitter. Yuan's body shivered after tasting it. Once the bitterness disappeared, his body suddenly began heating up, and within moments his body started steaming with smoke coming out of his pores. Full_current_novel on lworld.com. This shocked Yuan, who did not expect anything to happen after eating the perfect tempering ginseng. I need to cultivate. He tossed aside all questions in his mind and immediately sat down to cultivate. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.